2, 1.
Wait. Just joking, bye.
Hello and welcome to Cabin Fever Radio Novellas.
Wait.
This is season 4, where an isolated group of talented actors and creators come together to stave off their madness and yours and keep us all entertained through dramatic readings of your favorite movies and TV shows, along with original material. This episode is sponsored by Vengeance Turns the Motion Picture. What started as an original Cabin Fever Radio show and podcast turned into a film, but we'll hear more about that later in the show. I am your host for the evening, Mr. David Ruano, and in this season, we are focusing on a series of feature-length films that have, in one way or another, inspired Vengeance Turns the Motion Picture. And joining us for the reading, we have Robert Christopher Smith, Ray Gonzales, Moriah Hart, Rob Fury, Steven Ciceron, Cass, official Cass on Instagram, and Alicia, also known as Shasha. And on a side note, if this is the first time you guys are joining us, welcome. And for everyone who has been returning to see us, we have missed you guys so much, and we're excited to be back. And we'll be reading a full-length script this time with a couple intermissions in between, with a 15-minute intermission halfway through for, a quick little potty break or food break or anything of that nature. But more than anything else, what are we reading? We are reading a story called Kill Bill Vol.1, written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. As always, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Cabin Fever Radio on all social medias. The links will be in the description below so you can stay up to date with our various shows, especially Vengeance Turns the Motion Picture. And remember that you can chat with us live, and we will be interacting with you guys as the time goes through. And as an added bonus, during the live stream, we will be raffling off a couple little things from Vengeance Turns, including a Vengeance Turns poster and enamel pin. All you have to do is take a photo or screenshot of the live stream showcasing all of us and tag us on Instagram, Cabin Fever Radio. That simple. That gets you into the raffle. And during the intermission, we will pick out 2 winners using a raffle generator, and we will contact you and send you the merch. Again, that will be a Vengeance Turns poster and an Vengeance Turns enamel pin. It is that simple to stay connected, and thank you guys for watching. And again, are we ready to go? What do you guys think?
Oh yeah. Let me finish one more thing. Stuff. There, win stuff. I just hit up the words stuff on there.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm looking at all the fun stuff that's happening. And again, we are on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook all at the same time. Be sure to chat with us. And if we're all ready to go, let's start off Kill Bill Vol.1. Maestro.
Over black, we hear labored breathing. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Old Klingon proverb. We stay on black, the breathing continues, and then a man's voice talks over the breathing.
Do you find me sadistic?
We cut to a black and white close-up of a woman lying on the floor, looking up. The woman on the floor has just taken a severe spaghetti western-style gang beating. Her face is bloody, beaten up, and torn. The high contrast black and white turning the red blood into black blood. A hand belonging to the off-screen man's voice enters frame, holding a white handkerchief with the name Bill sewn in the corner, and begins tenderly wiping away the blood from the young woman's face. Little by little, as the male voice speaks, the beautiful face underneath is revealed to the audience. But what can't be wiped away is the white-hot hate that shines in both eyes at the man who stands over her. The Bill of the title. In another age, men who shook the world for their own purposes were called conquerors. In our age, the men who shake the planet for their own power and greed are called corruptors or trumps. And of the world's corruptors, Bill stands alone. For while he corrupts the world, inside himself, he is pure.
I bet I could fry an egg on your head about now if I wanted to.
He continues wiping away the blood.
No, kiddo. I'd like to believe, even now, you're aware enough to know there isn't a trace of sadism in my actions. Okay, maybe towards these other jokers, but not you.
There's an overhead shot. We see for a moment a wide shot looking down at the woman on the floor. Bill, from behind, bends down over her. 4 others in black suits standing over her. 3 are female, 1 is male. And about four dead bodies lying in their own blood. We also see we're in a wedding chapel that's been redecorated by blood, death, and gunfire. And firstly or lastly, depending on the viewer, that the woman on the floor is dressed in a white bridal gown. This woman is our heroine. And from this moment forth, she will only be referred to as the bride. Back to a close-up of the bride. The bride is on the floor. Her pretty face is wiped clean.
No, kiddo, at this moment, this is me at my most masochistic.
While still in her close-up, the bride speaks for the first time in the picture. She looks up at the man standing over her and she says,
Bill, I'm pregnant. It's your baby.
After saying the Y and baby, we hear a bang and the bride receives a bullet in the side of her head. We cut to black screen. The 4th film by Quentin Tarantino, you might know his name. Black and white close-up of a young man in a tuxedo, shot to death. The bride speaks to us in a voiceover.
That's Tim, Arthur's best friend.
Close-up of a pretty young woman in a frilly pink dress with 2 bullet holes in her.
That's his girlfriend, Janine.
Close-up, a plump young woman shot to death, wedding bouquet still clutched in her dead fist.
And that's my best friend from work, Erica.
An older black man in a black suit shot full of holes.
That's the minister. I think his name was Reverend Hillhouse.
A dead older woman by his side in an old-fashioned flower print dress.
That's his wife.
A dead older woman slumped over an organ.
Organ player. Don't know her name.
Young man in a tuxedo with his face blown off.
That's Arthur. Arthur Plimpton. The name on his driver's license was Charles Arthur Plimpton, but for some reason he preferred Arthur. Maybe if he went by Charles, people would have called him Charlie. If that was his reason for going by Arthur, I can understand it. Nothing wrong with the name Charlie, except he didn't look like a Charlie, he looked like an Arthur. Obviously, you'll have to take my word on this. Speaking of names, I was about 2 seconds away from becoming Mrs. Charles Arthur Plimpton.
And then finally, the bride.
And that's me. I'm the bride.
We dissolve from the bride, looking dead in the bridal gown, to the bride, still in black and white, still in a bridal gown. But the ass whipping she took in the scene before must have been in the past, because she looks like $1 million now. 3 million even. Interior of a car, moving, night. The bride behind the wheel of Volkswagen Carmen Ghia convertible, her long blonde hair whipping in the wind. A process shot plays behind her. That's those fakey looking roads.
Looked dead, didn't I? Well, I wasn't, but it wasn't for a lack of trying, I can tell you that. Actually, Bill's last bullet put me in a coma. Coma I was to lie in for 5 years. When I woke up, I went on what the movie advertisements refer to as a roaring rampage of revenge. I roared it, and I rampaged, and I got bloody satisfaction. In all, I've killed 33 people to get to this point right now. I only have one more. The last one. The one I'm driving to right now. The only one left. And when I arrive at my destination, I'm gonna kill Bill.
As a female sung ballad of heartbreaking lament plays on the soundtrack, not what I just did, we see the credits of Kill Bill play over the bride in her bridal gown, driving to the film's climax. The sequence ends with the bride arriving at Bill's home. We fade to black. A black frame. Title appears. We see a chapter appear. The number 2. We have close up of the bride's eyeball in glorious color. We cut 1, 2, 3 to a close up of the bride in glorious color. She's sitting in a parked pickup truck, her eyes focused on something. The bride's POV, a very homey 3-bedroom house in the affluent suburb of Pasadena, California. A purple Dodge Neon sits parked in the driveway. A tricycle, a big wheel, and a few toys sprinkle the grass on the front yard. A mailbox with the name The Bells on it sits in front of the lawn. We hear but don't see ice cream truck bells. Subtitle at the screen below. City of Pasadena, California. We hear a car door open and close. Then the bride walks in to the shot, heading for the front door. Close up, a long white female finger pushes a doorbell. Ding dong. Exterior residential Pasadena street day. The front door opens and an attractive black housewife, the same age as the bride, stands in the doorway. The housewife's face shows immediate recognition of the blonde on her doorstep. The bride. On the porch, we do a quick Shaw Brothers style zoom into her eyes. Flashback, spaghetti Western style. That means our heroine is remembering something and we see it with an orange filter. We're back inside Wedding Chapel. The bride is taking the beating of her life by 4 people in black suits. A black woman punches her in the face. We see it in the black housewife 5 years earlier. The bride on the porch. We zoom quick out of her eyes to close up. A Vengeance theme plays. Vengeance plays on the soundtrack. Whenever we see this throughout the picture, we'll quickly learn what accompanies it as the bride going Krakatoa all over whoever's ass happens to be in front of her at that moment. As the Vengeance theme plays, a vein in the bride's forehead begins to pulsate. When the Vengeance theme stops, the bride attacks the housewife. Interior, housewife's nice home day. The white woman and the black woman fly into the center of the living room, crashing onto her coffee table in front of the sofa. These 2 wildcats go at each other savagely, tumbling over the couch, clawing and scratching all the way, landing together on the plush carpet. The housewife, she kicks the bride, sending her crashing backwards into the small table where the phone, a notepad for messages, and the mail is kept. The housewife scrambles up on her feet, but is caught by a flying tackle from behind by the bride that sends them both into an ornamental iron and tempered glass bookcase that is framed family photos, displays toys, some African art, and a collection of painted commemorative plates depicting the Negro experience in the American military, starting with a plate featuring Crispin Atkins in the Revolutionary War, Negro troops in the Union Blue during the Civil War, Buffalo soldiers fighting Indians, the Jim Crow troops of the First World War, the colored troops of World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and finally Colin Powell. The bride and the housewife crash through all of this, reducing everything to rubble. They land hard on the floor, covered in broken glass, locked in grapple, each trying to get the best of the other one, when the housewife headbutts the bride in the nose. The housewife hops off the bride, runs into the kitchen, opens a door, comes out with a huge motherfucking butcher knife. The bride rises from the floor and whips out a knife in a sheath hanging from her belt, known as a sog. A sog, by the way, is a long, double-edged knife that's as sharp as a razor and is what Navy SEALs use to kill humans with. The bride backs in the mess of the now totally demolished living room. The 2 women stalk each other, each holding her blade, each looking like they know how to use it, each waiting for the other to make a mistake so they can plunge their blade deep into the other one. Blood and sweat dripped off the faces of the 2 women locked in life and death combat when the back kitchen door opens and a 4-year-old little girl carrying a lunchbox steps inside. Is that me? David?
If you can say that again, Cass.
Mommy, I'm home.
The 2 warrior women, whose eyes reflect only combat concentration, suddenly switch upon hearing the 4-year-old's voice. The housewife's eyes flash a look of pleading to the eyes of the bride. The bride seems to answer back, okay. The black woman and the white woman hide their edged weapons behind their backs as the 4-year-old little girl walks into the newly destroyed living room. The housewife switches to her mommy voice.
Hey, baby, how was school?
The little girl is flabbergasted at the mess and the condition of her mother, who looks like she's been in a barroom brawl.
Mommy, what happened to you in the TV room?
Oh, that good-for-nothing dog of yours got his little ass in the living room and acted like a damn fool. That's what happened.
Barney did this?
She says it with the slightest hint of skepticism and then tries to enter the living room.
Now, baby, you can't come in here. There's broken glass all over the floor and you're going to cut yourself.
The little girl's eyes go to the blonde lady in the living room who she ain't never seen before, who also looks like she's been fighting. The bride smiles at the confused little girl.
This is an old friend of mommy's I ain't seen in a long time.
Hello, sweetie. I'm Bee. Bobby, you suck. Told me you were gonna do it. What's your name?
Whenever during the picture somebody says the bride's real name, it will be bleeped out on the soundtrack, just like Moriah just did. That is, till I want you to know. The shy, suspicious little girl doesn't say anything. She just stares at the blonde lady.
Her name is Nikki.
Nikki. What a pretty name for such a pretty little girl. How old are you, Nikki?
Nikki still says nothing. She only stares.
Nikki, bleep, ask you a question.
I'm 4.
4 years old, eh? You know, I once had a little girl. She'd be 5 right now. Maybe you two could have played with each other.
Now, baby, me and bleep have some grown-up talk to talk about. So you go in your room now and leave us alone till I tell you to come out.
The child doesn't move, so the mother repeats herself.
Nikki, in your room now.
The little girl slowly walks away and disappears behind the door of her room. The two women turn to face each other. Masquerade and combat both finished.
Want some coffee?
Yeah, sure.
The two women move into the kitchen. The bride resheathes her sog, and the housewife puts the butcher knife back in the drawer. The bride sits down at the kitchen table while the housewife pours both of them coffee.
Cream and sugar?
Both, please.
As the housewife fixes the coffee, we hear the bride's voiceover on the soundtrack.
This Pasadena homemaker's name is Janine Bell. Her husband is Dr. Lawrence Bell, but back when we were acquainted 5 years ago, her name was Vernita Green. Her code name was Cobra. Mine was Black Mamba.
The two combat artists sit at the kitchen table drinking coffee out of Vernita's coffee mugs.
Were you expecting me?
Yeah and no. Bill got in touch with me right after you woke up, then again a little later after your episode in Japan. So I suppose it's a little too late for an apology, huh?
You suppose correctly.
Even if I was sincere?
Oh, I'm quite positive you're sorry now.
Vernita says to the bride across the table, furiously but with low volume.
Little bitch, I need to know if you're gonna start any more shit around my baby girl.
You can relax for now. Not gonna murder you in front of your own daughter.
That's being more rational than Bill led me to believe you were capable of.
Well, that's a demonstration of Bill's complete ignorance when it comes to the subject of me and what I'm thinking and what I might do. It's mercy, compassion, and forgiveness I lack, not rationality.
She pauses. For effect, the ham.
I'll wait for now, but I won't wait for long. I'll allow you to choose a time and place for us to meet again, preferably as far away from Nikki as possible. Could have just hit you. I didn't. I demand respect for that. Since this is not a hit, consider it a duel. And as two former deadly Vipers, we will observe Viper rules of honor. 1-on-1, no help, no bushwhacking, no treacherous weapons. Weapon of choice, our skill, and our bodies.
Vernita says her name.
I'm not through telling you. Failure to keep our date, our duplicity of any kind, will result in me putting an XOXO hollow point bullet into the back of your skull from a window of a building across the street from Nikki's elementary school. Now, feel free to respond.
Look, I know I fucked you over. I fucked you over bad. I wish to God I hadn't, but I did.
The blonde listens to the black woman with a poker face.
If I could go back in a machine, I would, but I can't. All I can tell you is I'm a different person now.
I don't care.
Be that as it may, I know I do not deserve mercy or forgiveness. However, I beseech you for both on behalf of my daughter.
Bitch, you can stop right there.
The B word stops Vernita short, almost like a cold-handed slap in the face. It should affect the audience that way as well.
Just because I have no wish to murder you before the eyes of your daughter does not mean parading her around in front of me is going to inspire sympathy. You and I have unfinished business. And not a goddamn fucking thing you've done the subsequent 5 years, including getting knocked up, is going to change that.
You have every right to want to get even.
But that's not where you're wrong, Vernita. I don't want to get even. To get even Steven, I would have to kill you, go into Nikki's room, kill her, then wait for your old man, Dr. Bell, to come home and kill him. That would make us even. No, my unborn daughter will just have to be satisfied with your death at her mother's hands.
Vernita knows no matter what else is said, blood will spill.
When do we do this?
It all depends. When do you want to die? Tomorrow? Day after tomorrow? That's about as long as I'll wait.
How about tonight, bitch?
Splendid. Where?
There's a baseball diamond where our little league has its games, and a mile from here. We meet there around 2:30 in the morning, dressed all in black, your hair in a black stocking, and we have us a knife fight. We won't be bothered. I have to fix Nikki's cereal.
As they continue to talk, Vernita pulls down a cereal box for her daughter and lays it on the kitchen counter.
Bill said you were one of the best ladies he'd ever seen with an edged weapon.
Vernita moves to another kitchen cabinet and pulls down a box of sugar cereal. Kaboom!
Fuck you, bitch. I know he didn't qualify it, so you can just kiss my motherfucking ass, Black Mamba. Black Mamba. I should have been motherfucking Black Mamba.
As the two females continue to talk, Vernita reaches her hand inside the cereal box.
Weapon of choice? And if you want to stick with your butcher knife, I'm cool with that.
Very funny.
Vernita fires a gun from inside the cereal box at the bride. Bam! The bullet explodes out of the cardboard box and hits the coffee mug directly in front of the bride, blowing it to smithereens. The bride throws herself on the floor. Vernita pulls the gun out of the cereal box and fires again. The bullet hits the floor of the tiny kitchen. The bride moves under the kitchen table, then using her back, lifts the table off the ground, ramming it straight into Vernita, pinning her flat up against the tabletop and into the kitchen counter. While her left hand holds the table, her right hand goes to the SOG on her belt. Her fingers wrap around the blade's grip, lifting it up out of the sheath and plunging it through the tabletop up to the handle with all the SOG steel entering Vernita's abdomen. The table falls back to the floor with the dying homemaker pinned to it. The two former colleagues meet eyes.
Sorry about the bushwhack. Please don't.
Do to your daughter what you did to mine. I won't.
Vernita dies. The bride removes her SOG, looks up, and sees little Nikki standing in the doorway of her room. The little girl sees her mother dead on the floor, lying in her own blood. And she sees the blonde lady standing over her mother, bloody knife still in hand. But oddly enough, Nikki doesn't cry. The little girl locks eyes with the big girl and holds her stare. As she talks to the little girl, she removes an already stained with blood white handkerchief with the name Bill sewn on it, and the blonde wipes the girl's mother's blood off her blade.
It was not my intention to do this in front of you. For that, I'm sorry. But you can take my word for it, your mother had it coming. When you grow up, if you still feel raw about it, I'll be waiting.
And with that apology, statement, and invitation, the bride walks out of the kitchen side door, leaving the little girl to her mourning. Now we have an exterior shot of Vernita's home day. The bride walks down the dead woman's driveway to her vehicle. She glances at the lawn toys one more time as she makes her getaway. She climbs into her big yellow pickup truck with the words "Pussy Wagon" written across the flatbed's hatch door in a pimpy font. She takes out a ringed notebook, turns to a page that's headline reads, "Death List 5." On the page are 5 names, numbered going down the page, written in red ink. The first name has a line drawn through it with black ink. The second name on the list is Vernita Green, Cobra. The bride takes a black felt tip pin and draws a line through Vernita's name, turns on the truck's engine and drives out of the residential district. Fade to black. Now we have chapter 2. This chapter is called The Comatose Bride. We fade up on a close-up of the comatose bride, lying in her hospital bed, wide open, unblinking, sightless eyes that constantly stare yet see nothing. The bride is at the beginning of her comatose journey. Here we have a subtitle on the screen under her face. It says, 5 years and 4 months earlier in the city of El Paso, Texas. Although we're only in a tight close-up, we can tell a few things. 1, she's in her hospital room. 2, she's alone. 3, it's night. And 4, one hell of a rainstorm is pounding outside. The exterior, El Paso General Hospital, night. The rain pisses down in buckets in front of the hospital when the wheel to an Alfa Romeo rolls into frame and stops. The car door opens and 2 yellow galoshes step out onto the wet night. An overhead shot, a red umbrella, opens as rain falls down. There's a close-up, the back of the back of a head wearing a yellow rain slicker hood, framed by the red umbrella above it, which water cascades down and beats rhythm against. The figure in the yellow rain slicker with the red umbrella, who we can see is female, starts walking towards the hospital. We go to a split screen. On the left side, we have the bride in her coma. On the right side, we see the back of the yellow slicker walking in the rain towards the hospital entrance. The close-up of the yellow galoshes slapping against the wet asphalt and splashing through the puddles. A close-up of the hospital's electrical doors whooshing open. We follow behind this woman in the raincoat as she walks from the outside into the hospital, down the hall and into the ladies' room door. We have a close-up of the same woman, white woman, shapely barefoot ankle and leg stepping into a sheer white stocking. And we have an insert shot of those long white legs stepping into a white nurse's uniform. And now another insert shot of a zipper in the back zipping up. Looks like a nurse's uniform. A white sheer stocking feet stepping into white nurse's orthopedic shoes. Sexy. Of a syringe needle. Close up, stuck in a vial. The liquid is drawn up into the syringe. Some written text appears below that reads, "A lethal cocktail of Bill's own concoction." He calls it Goodbye Forever. We have an insert shot. The deadly syringe is placed on a nurse's tray. Insert shot. A little white nurse's cap is placed on top of the woman's blonde head. Now we have the interior hospital corridor night. The door marked "Ladies" is open, and a beautiful 6-foot blonde in a white nurse's uniform, looks a lot like Daryl Hannah, with a matching white eye patch over her left eye, steps out, carrying the nurse's tray with a Goodbye Forever filled syringe on it. She walks down the corridor towards the sleeping bride's room. Subtitle underneath this blonde nurse reads, "Ellie Driver, member of the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad, codename California Mountain Snake." That ends the split screen, and we're going to stay with Ellie. Interior of the bride's room. Night. The bride alone in her bed, alone in her coma, alone in her room. Ellie Driver opens the door to her room and steps inside. The female assassin approaches the comatose woman. We have a close-up of Ellie Driver's eye and white eye patch, looking down at her sleeping target, victim, rival, and opposite number. We have a close-up of the bride's eyes, wide open, blank stare. Ellie, standing over the bride hospital bed, says to her,
I might never have liked you. Point in fact, I despise you, but that doesn't suggest I don't respect you. You are a master of a profession that's most difficult to master. Dying in our sleep is a luxury kind is rarely afforded. My gift to you.
As she lifts the syringe off the tray, her cell phone rings. She curses to herself. There can only be one person on the other end of it. She answers it.
Hello, Bill? Affirmative. Comatose. I'm standing over her right now. What?
The female assassin turns away from the wide-eyed stare of the bride and paces the hospital room, talking on the cell phone, sorry.
Don't fucking shush me. If you think I came all the way down to Texas in a dog and cat rainstorm, no less, just to tuck Sleeping Beauty in bed, you got another fucking thing coming. You don't owe her shit. You don't owe her shit. Man, fuck that bitch. Oh, you're not, are you? Well, Bill, you never leave a job half done. A great teacher taught me that once. He looked a lot like you.
Elle pauses as Bill on the other line has his say. We don't hear his side. We stay with Elle as she talks. We can tell by her face he's making some sense. After a while, she answers back.
I guess. No, I don't need to guess. I know. Affirmative. I love you too. Bye-bye.
The female assassin puts the phone away and looks down at the comatose bride with the open eyes. Even though her face is expressionless, she almost seems to be smiling.
Thought that was pretty funny, didn't you? Word of advice, shithead. Don't you ever wake up.
Ellie leans closer to the bride's face.
You know, now I get a better look at you. You're not so damn pretty. Yeah, you got that Venus thing going for you, but you know, now I get a closer look at you, you're kind of weird looking. You got this big nose that doesn't fit with the rest of your face. Your eyes are two different sizes. And look at your skin. My complexion is way better than yours.
The bride does one of her motor reflex functions. She spits in Elle's face. Ellie springs up, wipes the spit off her cheek, and looks down at the comatose bride in her bed.
Oh, no, you didn't.
She grabs the bride by the front of her hospital gown, yanks her up to a sitting position, and punches her hard in the face 3 times. Whack, whack, whack.
If you ever take your ass out of this goddamn bed for as long as you fucking live, I will beat you into the ground, bitch.
Interior hospital room corridor night. I'm sorry. Interior hospital corridor night, not the room, the corridor. L driver in her nurse's uniform angrily walks down the hallway. She passes by a doctor struggling with a patient bleeding profusely on a gurney.
Nurse, come here quick. We're losing this man.
L doesn't even look back.
Tough titty. I quit.
She walks out of the shot, fade to black. Still in the black frame, 5 years later. We cut to the comatose bride's hospital room, night. The camera is in a corner of the ceiling looking down on the comatose bride who lies motionless in her bed. We hear the sound of a buzzing mosquito doing loop-de-loops and figure eights in the air. Looking for some warm blood, the buzzing stops. We have a macro super close-up of the mosquito on the bride's forearm, its stinger dug in her flesh, visibly drawing blood from its host. The mosquito's face got a big smile on it. Yum, yum, yum. He's drinking her blood. Macro shot of the mosquito on the forearm, drinking that blood with a big, satisfied grin on his face and a fat belly full of blood. When the bride's hand comes into frame and squashes the little bug flat, blood everywhere. Her fingers flick the dead, bloody bug away. Close up the bride, her wide open eyes that have stared in a constant gaze for the last 5 years. Finally, slowly, softly shut. They suddenly open. The bride sits bolt upright in bed. She has no idea where the fuck she is. We do a Shaw Brothers style quick zoom into a close up of her face. Quick cut to a flashback, spaghetti western style. Remember the orange thing back at the wedding chapel. Gun pointed down in her face. The barrel explodes. Bang. Quick cut back to the bride in her hospital bed. Bank still going, still echoing in her ears. Bang, not bank, in her ears. She lets that scream of pain and her hand goes to the side of her head as if she were just shot. Her hand feels the metal plate embedded in the side of her skull, where the hole was. She knocks against it with her knuckle. It goes, tink, tink, tink. And suddenly she says out loud,
My baby.
her hand goes down to her belly, unable to, only to find it not swollen but flat. She doesn't understand. She lifts up her hospital gown and sees a jagged scar, which runs down her abdomen. Her fingers trace it. She quickly looks at the palm of her hand and counts the lines. The lines in her palm look like a road map. She stops, counting, shocked.
5 years.
She counts again.
5 years.
The bride's 2 eyes fill with tears as she realizes her baby is long gone. When suddenly she hears step, step, step of Bill's boots walking towards her room. We see the cinematic equivalent of a comic book thought balloon by her head. Inside of it, we see Bill's black boots walking across the wood floor of the wedding chapel. The interior hospital corridor of the bride's floor. Night. We see a hospital orderly's bright red and white Reeboks softly slapping against the smooth surface of the institution's floor. They make a sound nothing like Bill's shoes. We go back to a split screen. On one side, the bride is listening. On the other side, the orderly's getting closer. The bride decides the best course of action until she gets her bearings is to play possum. She throws herself back down on the bed. Just as the 3 men enter the room, they see what they expected to see. The bride lying in her bed. She duplicates her comatose, eyes wide open, fixed stare. Except knowing she's awake and sees everything in front of her, she creates a slightly different effect. The bride, however, while she sees 2 truck drivers for who they are, when she sees the orderly, she sees Bill. When the orderly talks, she hears Bill. We, however, never see Bill's face completely. The orderly takes her sheet covering off and hitches her up her hospital gown till her blonde hoo-ha is exposed. He does kind of a ta-da presentation of her vagina. That caught me by surprise.
Now, is that the cutest little blonde pussy you ever saw? Or is it the cutest little blonde pussy you ever saw?
Trucker number 2, this guy named Gerald, he tends to agree. Trucker number 1, Warren, fronts.
I'll see, brother.
Can you repeat that again, Ray?
Close up of the bride, eyes wide open, playing possum. She can't believe she's being exhibited in this manner. A look of chagrin crosses her trying to be expressionless face. I've seen a fuckload better than you, fat ass, is what she says.
Yeah, in a movie maybe. But I know damn well this is the best pussy you ever saw and had touch of rights to. The price is $75. A fuck, gentlemen. You getting your freak on or what?
The truckers pay the bill of fare. As the orderly counts the trucker's money, he lays out the rules.
Here's the rules. Number one, no punching her. Nurse come in tomorrow and she got her shiner. Or let some teeth jigs up, all right? So no knuckle sandwiches under no circumstances. And by the way, this little cunt's a spitter. It's just a motor reflex thing, but spitter or not, no punching. Now, are we absolutely fucking positively clear about rule number one?
Yeah.
Rule number two, no monkey bites, no hickeys. In fact, no leaving no marks of no kind. But after that, it's all good. Her plum down there don't work no more. So feel free to come in there and all you want, it's all good. Keep the noise down. Try not to make a mess. I'll be back in 20.
The orderly turns to leave, then remembers something and turns back. He takes out the most disgusting jar of Vaseline in the history of cinema and hands it to Warren.
Oh, by the way, not all the time, but sometimes this cunt's cunt can be a little dry than a bucket of sand. If she's dry, lube it all up with this and you'll be good to go. Bon appetit, gentlemen.
And with that, the orderly is gone. Now we're at the bride's POV. As soon as he leaves, the two truckers start giggling. Warren begins to unbuckle the belt that lies beneath his belly. While he looks down to accomplish this, the bride's POV blinks.
She just blinked.
He say she can blink.
I know what he said. I'm telling you, she just did.
Warren drops his Levi's to his ankles.
Just wait. When I get through with this little dumbbell, she gonna stand up and recite the Gettysburg Address.
Warren begins to climb up on the bed and mount the bride. Before he does, he stops and looks back to Gerald.
Hey, Gerald.
Yeah.
This shit in not peep show. Go out in the hall and I'll let you know when is your turn.
Oh, come on. I gotta leave the room.
I can't get this erection with you looking at me, so go on.
Well, just hurry up then.
Gerald leaves the room. Who would want to see that, right? We go out with him in the hallway. The interior hallway, hospital night. Gerald paces, waiting for his turn behind the door. And then he hears behind the door a commotion. And then Warren screams like a little bitch. He bangs on the closed door and says,
Hey, man, keep it down in there. I can hear your ass out here.
more falsetto screams behind the door. And then the heavy thud of a body falling. Not what he expected. The interior of the bride's room, night. Gerald pushes open the door to see one hell of a sight. His buddy, bloody, and lying motionless on the floor, and the bride lying haphazardly on the bed in her coma. He moves to his buddy, who's dead, then moves to the comatose bride, who suddenly springs to life, grabbing him by the front of his shirt, yanking him down to her, and plunging her IV needle in her arm deep into his temple, and then twisting it around and around, turning it the right side of his brain into scrambled eggs, a la the bride. She tosses the now brain-dead Gerald to the floor. The bride, upon waking, without leaving the bed where she lay the last 5 years, has just killed 2 men. She throws off the bloody blankets, whips her legs off the side of the bed, and tries to stand, then quickly falls out of frame. We hear the crash below frame. The bride is flat on the floor. Her legs and feet don't work, which means she's stuck on the floor with only a functioning top half and a completely useless bottom half. What's a girl to do? Interior hospital corridor, night. The elevator doors open and the orderly steps out. Back to the bride. She hears the sound of Bill's boots approaching the room. Step, step, step. She sees Gerald has a trucker's knife and a holster attached to his belt. Her hand removes it. The orderly swaggers down the hall to the bride's room and Reebok slapping against the smooth floor. Close up of the bride. She snaps the knife's blade open in her close-up. The orderly pushes open the bride's door, stopping in shock. The orderly's POV. He sees an empty bed with bloodstains on it. He sees 2 dead redneck truckers on the floor and no bride. The orderly is like,
Oh, shit.
There we go. We go to slow motion as he freaks out. And then we pan down on him, past the shirts, past the pants to those Reeboks we keep talking about. Once on the floor, we see the bride curled up low next to the doorway, behind his ankles, knife ready. We go back to 24 frames a second. I didn't know we ever left. He steps in. Oh, yeah, dude. We stepped into the room. When he does, the bride reaches out and slashes both of his Achilles tendons. Oh, shit, that's going to hurt. The standing orderly lets out a and then falls out of frame. Impact cut. The orderly hitting the floor face first. The boy is stunned. The bride, confined to the floor, crawls over and drags the stunned fucker across the floor, placing his melon between the door and the door frame, and then taking the door in her right hand, she slamming his head 3 times between the door and the door frame. The orderly lies on the floor in a strange state of consciousness. He's in both excruciating pain, and he's quite sure that he's lost his fucking mind, since at this moment, he's lying on the floor, looking up at the comatose bride, asking him questions.
Where's Bill?
Slam!
Bill. Where is Bill?
No, Bill.
Slam!
I saw him here myself.
Slam!
Now, do you tell me where he is, or do I beat your fucking brains in?
Slam!
Please stop. Don't hit me again.
Where is Bill?
Slam! Suddenly the bride sees the gold Coke straw around his neck that she thought she'd seen earlier on Bill. She snatches it from around his neck.
Where did you get this from?
That's mine.
Slam!
Bullshit! I saw Bill wearing it in this room 10 minutes ago.
Slam! And then the bride looks down and sees 2 tattoos on the orderly's hand. One spelling B-U-C-K buck on each finger of his left hand, and another spelling F-U-C-K fuck on the fingers of his right. The bride seems to look inside her own mind. Whenever we do this, we hear this special thing. It goes. We do a quick Shaw Brothers zoom into her eyes. We see Buck enter her room that first night 5 years ago. He's holding in his hand one of those big flashlights you use in a tent when camping. It gives off a soft blue light. Buck examines the bride through the blue.
Well, ain't you a slice of cutie pie? They all said you was. Well, man, I'm from Longview, Texas. My name is Buck, and I'm here to fuck.
Trump voter. He starts to unbuckle his belt. We zoom out of her eyes into the close-up of remembering that theme. She looks down at Buck and says,
Your name's Buck, right? And you came to fuck, right?
How the
Make America great again.
How the fuck does she know? Look crosses his face. The bride looks down at him. The vengeance theme begins playing loudly on the soundtrack. And the vein in her forehead becomes pronounced and begins to pulsate in time with the music. Every time the bride comes to face with a tormentor, this theme will play on the soundtrack, or I will just yell it like I've been doing. By mid-movie, I will drive you insane. This music should drive the audience wild with orgasmic anticipation of the carnage to come. Get ready, folks. I'm bringing you orgasms. And with the door in her hand and one mighty slam, this Longview, Texas boy is sent to the promised land. She searches the dead man's pockets, coming up with a brown wallet that says on it, Big El Paso Pimpin', loaded with lettuce. She also pulls out a set of car keys on a pickup truck chain that has the words Pussy Wagon on it, written in a pimpy font. She gathers up all these items, and Gerald's knife then begins to strip Buck of his orderly uniform. Interior underground parking lot night. The elevator doors to the hospital's underground parking lot open, revealing the bride and Buck's orderly scrubs in a wheelchair. She wheels out of the elevator fast in the parking lot, her arms spinning at the wheels as she goes down the line of cars, looking for a pickup truck that Buck would own. Yeah, she stops. What made the bride stop? The ass end of a big yellow 4x4 hard buddy pickup truck with flames painted along the side and the words Pussy Wagon written along the flatbed hatch door. Yep, pimpy font. The bride looks at Buck's keychain in her hand. Close up, car key, and truck door lock. It turns. Close up, Truck door lock pops open. Interior backseat of Buck's truck. Night. The bride pulls herself up into the backseat of Buck's pickup truck. Once in the backseat, she shoves the wheelchair away. It rolls out of control down the parking ramp and crashes. This is something I always have a question about in the movies when she does this, by the way. Now the bride's lying vertically in Buck's truck backseat, seemingly out of danger. It's good editing. At least out of sight, but she's still stuck hiding in the hospital until she regains full use of her legs. And this little bride ain't going anywhere or doing anything. Lying flat with the back. Oh,
and
that
on that little note, as she is there doing nothing inside the truck,
Lying
we're
flat.
going to do a quick little ad break. And this episode is sponsored by Vengeance Turns the Motion Picture. Vengeance Turns the Motion Picture, in partnership with Cabin Fever Radio. This film went from an audio podcast to the big screen, taking place in 1876 California, starring Bala Luelmo as Rebecca Falcone, a young woman who loses everything, including her beloved husband, son, and daughter, in a violent attack that leaves, with a Z, her for dead. When a young man played by Azim Vecchio as Simon Coltrane rescues her and helps her find those walking dead men, as her lust for bloody vengeance turns her into a murderous vigilante. Starring Jamal Gardner as Jefferson Coltrane, alongside Moriah Hart, who is here today, as Hester Blake, and Nevin Milan as Ghost with Silent Knife Protects. Vengeance Turns the Motion Picture will be premiering in film festivals in the 2021-2022 season, but you don't have to wait that long to get your fix on the film. Visit vengeanceturns.com and check out the official trailer. So you can check that out at vengeanceturns.com, as well as get your hands on limited edition merch that is available today. All the links will be in the description below, as you know. Simply vengeanceturns.com. What are you waiting for? Go check it out after the show and get yourself a poster, a shirt, a pin, some stickers, something, bundle it up. And stay tuned for more, including a sneak peek of a graphic novel that it's in the works. Yes, graphic novel, you heard it right. Remember, that is vengeanceturns.com. And during our intermission of today's live stream, we will be talking a little bit more about it. And again, as a side note, to all the viewers that are watching right now, we are doing a raffle to hand out a couple amazing little posters, as you will see on the screen. We are giving out a Vengeance Turns poster entitled Blood Soaked Beauty and an enamel pin of our first Vengeance Turns logo. All you have to do is to enter the raffle is tag us, Cabin Fever Radio, on Instagram. You can take a screenshot of today's broadcast or repost one of our previous posts, but just tag us on Cabin Fever Radio in your posts, and you'll be entered to win a poster and an enamel pin. During the intermission, what we're going to do is gather up all those names with a raffle generator and pick out 2 winners. And we'll be contacting you after the show. It's that simple. All you have to do is just post about the stream onto your Instagram and tag Cabin Fever Radio. That gets you entered into the raffle. That being said, we can go back into the programming and figure out, what does she do in the truck? What is she doing now?
She's laying there. And like I said, this is one of those things, it's good editing, but when you watch the movie, you think about it, you're like, how did she do this? But anyway, she's lying flat with the back of her head propped up against the door, her long, lifeless legs stretched out in front of her, her 2 bare feet, Tarantino bare feet at the end of them, pointing to the sky. The bride focuses her eyes, her stare, her thoughts, her strength, and all her concentration on her big toe. Zoom into the big toe. Zoom into her face. Zoom into the big toe. Zoom into the face.
Wiggle your big toe.
Nothing.
Wiggle your big toe.
Nothing.
Wiggle your big toe. As I lay in the back of Buck's pickup truck, trying to will my limbs out of entropy, I could see the faces of the cunts who did this to me and the dick responsible. Members of Bill's brainchild, the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad.
And now we see a title sequence. And this is something different from the movie. For what looks like a 60s television show about an all-girl hit squad, complete with its own Lalo Schifrin theme music against a bright orange background. A snake with 6 heads, all different breeds, done in a cool but low-budget speed racer style of animation, rears its head to strike. The image freezes, and the show's title, in an especially cool font and logo, the black silhouette of 5 sexy gals, each with a samurai sword hanging from their hip, and one guy in a black suit appear beneath it. The Deadly Viper Assassination Squad. The Divas. The show's cast credits start. We see the bride doing something cool. Freeze. Screen goes orange, except for a scope sight rifle graphic with crosshairs over the bride's face. Off to the side is her identifying credit, starring the bride's real name is covered up by a stamp that reads, classified as Black Mamba. A beautiful Japanese woman wielding a samurai sword. Freeze. Orange background, scope sight graphic, starring O-Rin Ishii as Cottonmouth. Vernita Green doing something cool. Freeze. Same graphic, starring Vernita Green as Cobra. The older male doing something cool. Freeze. Same graphic, starring Bud as Sidewinder. L Driver doing something cool. Freeze. Orange background, scope sight graphic. You know how that goes. Starring L Driver as California Mountain Snake. As the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad opening theme plays, we see various shots of the Vipers all dressed alike in the same black skin-tight cat suits, except for Bud, the male, who wears a black suit, all doing exciting shit, man. It ends with the reappearance of the 6 headless snakes logo and the 6 black silhouettes. The final credit appears. Created and produced by Bill. We move into a head and shoulders close-up of the bride's black silhouette.
Now, after 5 years of beauty sleep, I knew absolutely nothing about my enemy's strengths, weaknesses, or whereabouts. But as fated by God, vengeance would have had it. I, who knew nothing, knew one thing. As sure as God made little green apples.
We move fast to O-Rin Ishii's silhouette. The silhouette becomes a posed picture of O-Rin in all her deadly viper glory.
If O-Rin Ishii, the first name on my death list, was still alive, she'd live in Japan. O-Rin Ishii made her first acquaintance with death at the age of 11.
Flash on. Close-up of O-Ren, 11 years old, hiding under a bed watching. Her father, dressed in the uniform of a sergeant for the American Army, fighting 3 Yakuza gangsters. He kills one with his bare hands. The other 2 slice him to death with samurai swords. And her mother, being raped by the same men, when they finish, they shoot her. Little O-Ren watches, hidden from sight, with the eyes and face of a stone.
It was at that age a half Chinese, half Japanese American Army brat witnessed the murder of her master sergeant father, and the rape, then the murder of her mother at the hands of Japan's most ruthless Yakuza boss Matsumoto. She wore revenge. Luckily for her, Boss Matsumoto was a pedophile.
Shot cut. O-Ren on top of Boss Matsumoto, plunging a huge knife into his chest. A stream of red blood shoots up out of him like a geyser. Boss is naked. O-Ren wears a Japanese schoolgirl uniform.
At 13, she got her revenge.
The boss's screams cause 2 of the boss's men to run into the room, only to be shot down by O-Ren as she removes a gun from a holster strapped to her thigh. The 20-year-old O-Ren Ishii on a rooftop with a high-powered scope sight rifle up to her eye. Her eye is hugely magnified in the scope.
By 20, she was one of the tip-top of female assassins in the world.
She fires. Interior car, day. A Central American general riding backseat of his government vehicle. 2 beautiful Latin women in one-piece bathing suits sit on either side of him. They both wear sashes down their front. One reads Miss Panama. The other reads Miss Venezuela. Oh. As we cut to the shot, he has both hands on each of their bare knees. He's laughing as the top of his head is blown off. The 23-year-old O-Ren Ishii stands before Bill and the bride. Bill is not clearly viewed.
At 23, she joined Bill's Deadly Vipers.
The 25-year-old O-Ren Ishii beating up the pregnant bride with the other Vipers.
At 25, she did her part in the killing of 8 innocent people, including my unborn daughter, a small wedding chapel in El Paso, Texas. But on that day 5 years ago, she made one big mistake.
closed figure of the bride in all her pre-beating bridal gown glory.
She should have killed 9. However, before satisfaction would be mine, first things first.
Close-up of the bride in Buck's truck. You remember Buck, he likes to fuck. An hour and a half later from the last time we saw her.
Wiggle your big toe.
Close-up on the bride's big toe, and it finally wiggles slightly.
Part's over. Now let's get these other piggies wiggling.
Fade to black. We come from a black frame. Subtitle appears 13 hours later. We begin a music montage. We fade up on lost my thing. Fade up on interior underground parking lot day. Pavement of the parking lot. We hear a car door open off screen. Then the bride's barefoot comes from above frame, stepping down into the shot. She walks around to the driver's side and climbs in. She sticks Buck's ignition key in its slot and turns. The truck's engine rumbles to life. She spies a pair of Elvis TCB sunglasses lying on the dash. She puts them on. Exterior Texas streets. Interior Texas doors. Day. The bride drives Buck's big yellow pussy wagon all over El Paso buying supplies. We follow her bare feet, Tarantino and those bare feet, into a clothing store. Her feet, legs, and ass slip into a new pair of Levi's. Her hands grab a pair of cherry brown cowboy boots, then slip on those cowboy boots. She chooses another top and finds a warm jacket. She opens Buck's big El Paso pimpin' wallet and pays for the items. She emerges from the truck store wearing her new outfit and climbs back in the truck. She drives, stopping in the department store and walking inside. She picks up a shovel, a hand pickaxe, a big camping flashlight, a map of Texas, a writing notebook, and a bunch of red and black felt tip pens. While the bride is buying items in the department store, we'll cross cut with her driving the pussy wagon up to a low rent motel called the Texican. Her registering with the old bastard of a desk clerk, getting the key and paying him out of the big El Paso pimpin' wallet. Her drawing a bath in the bathroom of the motel room. Shampoo taken off the shelf of the department store. Conditioner, a bar of soap, hot water runs out of the bathtub faucet. Steam rises off the hot bath water. She pulls down a bath product like bubble bath, salt, apricot, this, kiwi, that. We see pour all the items in the bath water. Then we see her bare feet. God damn those bare feet in the end of the water. Then lower her whole body in the bath water. Now submerged in the bath water herself. Perfect music. Cue on the sidetrack. She begins to cry. Her poor heart has been shattered in 5 years of tears come flooding out of her. She cries for her baby. She cries for her motherhood robbed from her. She cries for all the innocent people at the wedding chapel who died simply because they were unlucky enough to cross her path. She cries for the betrayal in the hands of her lover. She cries for the treachery in the hands of her comrades. She cries for the 5 years of her life snatched from her. She cries for the countless violations she endured while incapacitated. And finally, she cries all the misery she will cause the undeserving en route to Bill's retribution that begins the minute she steps out of this fucking bathtub. She curls up in a fetal position inside the tub of warm water, weeping. We dolly back to give our heroine some privacy. You know, after all this, we're going to give her some privacy. We dissolve through the bathroom door till we're on the other side, filming a closed door with the crying on the other side. When she's finished shedding tears is when she'll begin shedding blood. Love that. When the bathroom door opens, the woman that emerges has closed out all her emotions, save from one, guys. Revenge. It's that woman in her new outfit that climbs into the yellow pussy wagon, puts the TCB sunglasses over her eyes, and starts the engine that sets into motion the gory story to follow. End of the music montage. Exterior, interior, Buck's truck driving in the desert, moving, night. POV through the windshield. The truck shines its headlight beams on an open patch of prairie wasteland. We see dirt, rocks, plants, and an oil derrick pumping up and down. The bride stops the truck. Taking her flashlight with her, the bride walks into the headlight beams towards the rock on the ground in particular. She lifts it off the ground. There's an X on it. It's underside. She smiles. If the X hadn't been there, she would have taken it as a sign that her vengeance quest was never meant to be. But as it is there, it would appear that fortune has smiled on the bride and her bloody intentions. She walks back into the truck, takes the shovel, the hand pickaxe out from the flatbed, reaches into the truck cab, and changes the music to a pounding heavy metal anthem. Something like, do you believe in love? Do you believe it's true? Close up of the bride's cowboy boots next to the X-Rock, in time with the metal. Do you believe in love? The bride's cowboy boots count on 10 paces from the rock. When the boots stop, the flashlight enters the shot, illuminating the spot. Then the shovel enters, striking deep in the unmarked earth. Exterior, Texas desert night, deep in the middle of the fuck knows where, Texas, lit by headlights of the Bucks 4x4. The bride digs a hole in the ground until she hits something hard. She gets down on her knees, hacking away at the dirt with the hand pickaxe till a large box covered in plastic is revealed. None of this is in the movie. She hoists it up out of the earth. She rips off the plastic, revealing a large green army footlocker untouched by condensation of being buried in the ground for over 5 years. Flipping the 2 locks open and lifts the lid, placing the big camping flashlight on the rim. Unfolding a sleeping bag long ways she bought at the department store, the bride begins collecting the contents of her buried treasure and laying them on the sleeping bag. We see her remove them from the footlocker one by one. Huey Lewis continues on the soundtrack. Do you believe in love? Do you believe it's true? And we see 2 9mm automatics with ammo and holsters, 1 small handgun with ammo and holster, 1 snub-nose 38 with ankle holster, 1 double-edged SOG knife with holster, 1 Mossberg pump-action shotgun with ammo, 1 silver steel boomerang with a double-sided razor's edge with holster, 1 old-fashioned straight razor, 1 black vertical attaché case. She flips it open inside, broken down into 4 separate pieces, is a high-powered scope sight rifle, 1 manila envelope. She reaches in and pulls out a photocopy of her sonogram. There on the page is a photocopy of her unborn baby girl. A fierce grimness crosses her face as she places the sonogram back in the envelope. 1 clear Ziploc bag containing a phony ID and bank book, both with the name Candy Ralston on them. Reaching back in the locker, she pulls out the final item. 1 small key attached to a deadly Viper's keychain. She rolls up the weapons in the sleeping bag and drives off. Huey Lewis continues. Do you believe in love? Do you believe it's true? Close-up of a sign reading, Commonwealth Bank of Texas. Interior, the Commonwealth Bank of Texas. It's day. Close-up of the bride standing at the teller window. No more Huey Lewis. She holds up her key. Insert 1 bank book, 1 driver's license with the bride's photo on it and the name Candy Ralston on each. Interior, safety deposit vault. Day. The bride with a big athletic bag slung over her shoulder watches the teller remove 4 safety deposit boxes. Interior, private area. Day. When you look inside your safety deposit box by yourself, the bride opens up its first box. It's filled with cash. She opens up the second box. It's filled with cash. She opens up the third box. It's filled with cash. She opens up the fourth box. It's filled with... She takes out a bag. It's inside the bag are 14 forged passports and a driver's license in 14 different names. Also in the box is 1 compact refrigerator case. She opens it. Inside are 2 beautiful handmade gold syringes and 1 vial of fluid. A subtitle appears underneath. Truth Serum of Bill's own concoction. He calls it the undisputed truth. As Huey Lewis continues, he's back. We see the bride. Do you believe in love? We see the bride leaving the bank, all the weapons she needs, all the money she needs, taking the first step on her bloody trail. A little rinky-dink graphic of a map to Japan. The tiny figure of a black airplane flies over the map, leaving a dotted line trail behind it. We move into the black airplane and dissolve to airplane flying, overhead shot of the bride in her passenger seat, flying to Japan. We see she's holding a clean white handkerchief. She's sewing the name Bill in the corner. We end. We're done with Huey Lewis. He's all gone. Now it's chapter 3. The man from Okinawa. Fade up, fade in. Interior sushi bar, Okinawa, Japan. Day. The entrance to a tiny sushi bar covered by a Japanese curtain. Subtitle appears. City of Okinawa, Japan. The fabric is moved aside. The bride enters the shot and the tiny establishment. The little fish and the sake bar is the definition of the word cozy. Besides the bride, the only other person is the sushi chef, who smiles at her behind the midget bar. Is that right? This Japanese man in his mid-50s, greets the tall blonde Western girl with a turned-on for tourists affability.
English?
Almost. American.
American. Welcome. Welcome. My English, very good.
The bride smiles at this and walks further inside. She doesn't come across as one of the world's deadliest assassins, but instead as a sweet, slightly airheaded American tourist and a Trump voter.
Domo.
The sushi chef gives an exaggerated look of surprise and says,
Oh, domo. Very good. Very good. You speak Japanese?
No. Just a few words I learned since yesterday. May I sit at the bar?
Sure. Sit. What other words did you learn? Excuse me.
The sushi chef yells in Japanese to someone off screen. The bride thinks the restaurant so small, it's almost hard to imagine there could be a back room to it. Before getting a response from whoever it was yelling to a moment ago, the sushi chef turns back to the bride.
What other Japanese you learn?
The bride puts on her thinking face.
Oh. Let's see. Mm, arigato.
Arigato. Very good.
Aso?
Aso. You know what aso means?
I see.
I see. Very good.
I already said domo, right?
Yes.
Konnichiwa?
The sushi chef goes, "Ooh," like he's just discovered the answer to a mystery.
Konnichiwa. Repeat, please.
Konnichiwa.
Saying with surprise and admiration.
Most impressive. You say Japanese words like you Japanese.
Konnichiwa. The bride smiles and lets loose with a girlish giggle.
Now you're making fun of me.
No. Serious business. Pronunciation? Very good. You say arigato like we say arigato.
Well, thank you. I mean, arigato.
You should learn Japanese. Very easy.
No kidding. I heard it's kind of hard.
Whenever the sushi chef doesn't either hear you or understand you, he yells the word.
What?
And everybody always speaks louder and clearer immediately afterwards.
I always heard it was difficult.
Yes. Most difficult, but you have Japanese tongue.
Maybe I was Japanese in another life.
The sushi chef proclaims as if he should know.
Most definitely. Most definitely Japanese in another life.
He sets an order of colorful raw fish in front of the young blonde woman that not only looks good, it looks beautiful.
How did you know tuna's my favorite?
What?
Tuna's my favorite.
Thank you very much.
He yells off screen in Japanese again. A little bald Japanese man with a shitty attitude comes from the back room. He heads for the tall blonde, asking in a grumbly voice in Japanese, "What you want to drink?"
I beg your pardon.
The sushi chef pantomimes drinking. Drink.
Oh, yes. A bottle of warm sake.
Sake. Very good.
In Japanese, he yells/orders the warm sake. The little bald man disappears. The bride takes a bite of her fish.
First time in Japan?
Uh-huh.
What?
Yes. This is my first time.
As the chef slices the next portion with a large knife, he asks,
"What brings you to Okinawa?"
I came to see a man.
Ah, your friend lives in Okinawa.
Not quite.
Not friend?
Well, I've never met him.
The sushi chef continues slicing.
Who is he, may I ask?
Hattori Hanzo.
Doo-loo-loo. There's a break in the sushi chef's slicing. After a beat, he brings a bloody finger into frame and sticks it in his mouth. The little bald man appears with a bottle of warm sake. He pours one for the bride, then disappears again. As the bride sips the sake, she looks at the chef. As the sushi, God damn, why can't I say that? As the sushi chef sucks his finger, he looks at the bride. That's a tongue twister, man. The sushi chef drops his voice he had been using to that point, and in Japanese, subtitled in English, he asks,
"What do you want with Hakiro Hanzo?"
The bride answers in Japanese. Yeah.
I need Japanese steel.
Why do you need Japanese steel?
I have vermin to kill.
You must have big rats. You need Hattori Hanzo steel.
Huge.
The interior of Hattori Hanzo's attic, day. The trap door in the floor opens up, and Hattori Hanzo, sushi chef, climbs inside the room, followed by the bride. The room has many handcrafted samurai swords and hand-carved wooden sheaths resting on wooden racks running the length of the second half of the attic. The bride walks the row of Japanese steel, looking and touching the shiny wood. She looks behind her to Hanzo, who is still by the trap door, and she says,
May I?
The sushi chef answers in English.
Yes, you may.
She starts reaching for one.
Try the second one down in the 6th row on your left.
She finds it lying sleeping in its shiny black sheath. Her hand lifts it from the rack. She unsheaths the steel partially, then with great flourish, completely. Hanzo's mouth forms a smile.
Funny, you like samurai swords?
He pulls a baseball out of his pocket.
I like baseball.
And then suddenly he throws the baseball right at the bride's head. Quick as a whip, she slices the ball in half in midair. The two perfectly cut baseball pieces hit the floor. She gives her head a slight nod and then crosses the attic towards him.
I want to show you these. However, someone as you, who knows so much, must seriously know I no longer make instruments of death. I keep these here for their aesthetic and sentimental value. Yet, proud though I am of my life's work, I'm retired.
Then give me one of these.
These are not for sale.
I didn't say sell me. I said give me.
And why should I be obligated to assist you in the extermination of your vermin?
Because my vermin is a former student of yours, and considering the student, I'd say you had a rather large obligation.
Cool scene. Hattori Hanzo goes to a dusty window and slowly writes the name Bill on it with his finger. The blonde girl nods her head yes. The proud warrior moves over to the door in the floor, throwing it open. He points into a corner.
You can sleep here.
He starts to descend.
It will take me a week to make the sword.
Before his head disappears, he says,
I suggest you spend it practicing.
He closes the door behind him. She smiles slightly and then moves over to the window, takes out a handkerchief, and wipes Bill's horrid name from it. Fade to black. Over the black, title appears 1 week later. Under black, we hear Hattori Hanzo's voice in Japanese and read the subtitles.
I'm done doing what I swore an oath to God 28 years ago to never do again. I've created something that kills people. And in that purpose, I was success.
Close up of Hattori.
I've done this because philosophically and sympathetic to your aim.
Close up of the Hanzo sword, tracking close up of the Hanzo sword in its shiny black wood sheath. At the base of the sheath, by the handle, he's carved the face of a lioness.
I can tell you with no ego, this is my finest sword. If on your journey you should encounter God, God will be cut.
Close up on Hanzo.
Revenge is never a straight line. It's a forest. Like a forest, it's easy to lose your way, to get lost, to forget where you came in. To serve as a compass, a combat philosophy must be adopted that can be found in the secret doctrine of the Jagu Ninja. And now, my yellow-haired warrior, repeat after me.
We go back and forth between close-ups of Hanzo, reciting the doctrine like a samurai drill instructor, and the bride, repeating it.
We engage in combat. The vanquishing of thy enemy can be the warrior's only concern.
She repeats this.
This is the first and cardinal rule of combat.
She repeats this.
Surpass all human emotion and compassion.
She repeats this.
Kill whoever stands in the way, even if that be Lord God or Buddha himself.
She repeats this.
This truth lies at the heart of the art of combat. Once it is mastered, thou shalt fear no one. Thou, the devil himself, may bar thy way.
The bride repeats this as well, her eyes looking at the great maker of swords on this earth, and says,
Nomo.
Close-up of Hanzo's sword. Her white hand with her long fingers comes into frame and removes the beautiful, artful instrument of vengeance. We fade to black. Now, we start at chapter 4 when David
And
says, go.
before we start at chapter 4, this is where we're going to do a quick little intermission to stretch our legs, stretch our minds, and stretch our soul. I really do like this last little bit that Hanzo says. But again, thank you everyone who has been watching. We're just going to do a quick little break in case any of our actors need some water, some
Let's say 13 minutes. We'll go back at 3:30.
Yes, we're going to come back at 3:30. But again, thank you for watching. And as always, this episode is sponsored by Vengeance Turns the Motion Picture. In partnership with Cabin Fever Radio, this film went from an audio podcast to the big screen, taking place in 1876 California, starring Paula Luelmo as Rebecca Falcon, a young woman who loses everything, including her where am I? This is part of the intermission part. Including her beloved husband, son, and daughter in a violent attack that leaves her for dead. When a young man played by Azim Vecchio as Simon Coltrane rescues her and helps her find those walking dead men, as her lust for bloody vengeance turns her into a murderous vigilante. And one of the things that we want to talk about during our intermission is a little bit about the film and its progress. We are going to, the film is pretty much still in post-production, but is getting ready to be premiered in different film festivals in the 2021-2022 season. So those are amazing news. And again, the writer and director, Robert Christopher Smith, is here with us. I am the cinematographer, Mr. David Ruano, and some of the cast members that are in today's episode are part of Vengeance Turns the Motion Picture. Moriah Hart plays Hester Blake. Rob Fury plays Bronson. Cass plays one of the what do we call them? The saloon girls?
The prosies.
The prosies. One of the saloon girls.
That's our very polite way of saying it, you know.
Ray is also in the film. He plays one of the goons, one of the bad guys. Steven Ciceron is the sheriff of Vengeance Turns. But yeah, so Bobby can give you a quick little insight on Vengeance Turns as I look at our Instagram to see if anyone has submitted to be part of the raffle.
Hey, thanks, David. I just posted about it again as well. And so we're going to be giving free stuff away every week for the next 4 weeks. Like, here's a pen that we're going to give away, and this is like number 33 of 300 if you can see it. It's actually one of mine, straight out of my own collection. And we're going to give away a poster as well, and we're going to keep on kind of escalating through the next 4 weeks because we are releasing big news about Vengeance Turns. We're really excited. While the world was shut down from the pandemic last year and so many people suffered so badly, David and I were fortunate enough to actually kind of be able to achieve something that we had been working on for 4 years, and that is to film Vengeance Turns. It's a female-led revenge Western that it just, the way that it worked out for us to be able to film it is a story in its own, the whole story of getting to make the movie. But we did get to make it, and it was really exciting to be able to make it. And so now we're at the point where we've got some pretty exciting news to share with people, and we want to do it and kind of make an event about it rather than just make a random post out on Facebook or whatever. Every week for the next 4 weeks, we're doing these special Cabin Fever Radio novellas, and each of these was chosen by me because I wrote Vengeance Turns, the original story, and Kill Bill, Quentin Tarantino in general, but Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 certainly affected my writing of Vengeance Turns. Kill Bill has a female lead in a kind of a spaghetti Western situation looking for revenge. Vengeance Turns has a lead character named Mia Falcone, who is literally not kind of in a spaghetti Western, in a spaghetti Western, and looking for revenge in a way that in most movies like The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, it's always the man, his family gets killed, and he goes out looking for revenge. In our story, it's more like the bride's, in the fact that everything is taken away from her, and she goes on her own quest for revenge. So we're doing Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. Also Desperado. Robert Rodriguez is one of my biggest influences, one of my biggest inspirations. The movie Desperado is one of my all-time favorites. And so again, it's got a very strong female character in there played by Selma Hayek. And it definitely influenced directly the writing of Vengeance Turns. There's certain little things in Vengeance Turns, like character-wise, that I borrowed from Desperado. If you've ever seen Desperado, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about, where there's kind of two hitmen that are talked about all the way through the movie. And then when they show up, they get dispatched pretty quickly. And I kind of did something similar with a character named Gloria in Vengeance Turns. She pops up out of nowhere, and I thought I was a real badass, but then she leaves the story pretty quickly as well. And I won't spoil it to say more than that. But on week 4 of doing this, guys, we're going to be doing Death Wish, the original Death Wish, starring Bronson, that version of it. And I watched that version of it on Amazon Prime 2 times back to back while I was writing the original story for Vengeance Turns, because certain things I wanted to rip directly from that story, and other things I wanted to make sure that I did not take from that story. But one of my favorite lines from any movie ever is in Death Wish, the original. Charles Bronson corners one of the bad guys in a parking garage, and he sees a crucifix hanging around the guy's neck, who's clearly Catholic. And he says, "Do you believe in God?" And the guy says, "Yeah, why?" And he says, "Good, because you're going to meet him." Bam! And he kills the guy. I just thought that was so cool. So I kind of ripped that and put it in Vengeance Turns. And there's a scene in Vengeance Turns where the main hero, Mia, kind of is confronting some bad guys. They've got her cornered, essentially. It looks like she's getting ready to get killed. And subject of religion comes up, and she asks the bad guys, "Do you believe in God or whatever? Are you believers?" And they say, "Yeah." And she says, "Good, because I'm going to be sending you to meet him here real soon." And so I pulled that. I ripped that directly from Death Wish. So all 4 of these weeks, all the stories were all chosen by me to do these, doing them in the daytime, doing them all the way through. And every week we want to give stuff away. So we're hoping that not just this week, but week by week, people will tune in because they want to hear exclusive news about Vengeance Turns. This is the only place where you can hear stuff. Like right now, we had a ton of views on our trailer. We put it out when we started editing, and we just kind of thought we'll put it out just to see. We didn't do any color correction. We didn't do anything on it. We just kind of threw it together, and it got thousands of views, literally thousands. I can say that. And we recently took it down. As of today, that trailer is no longer available. And so our big announcement today is that if you go to YouTube, and if you go like even probably to the Vengeance Turns page and the Cabin Fever page, David can throw it out there for us. Throw the link for the new YouTube of the new trailer out onto the Cabin Fever radio page. And that's kind of our big announcement for today. But the announcements get bigger. Every week we wanted the stuff we give away to escalate. We want to give away more stuff. Like this week, it's a poster and a pin. Next week, we want to give away a t-shirt, a poster, and a pin, and maybe some other stuff. But we also want to share even bigger news. David was talking earlier about a graphic novel or a comic book. Right before this show started today, I was talking to some of my team that works on the comic book and was getting some really exciting news about a major, like a name comic book artist who is agreed to work with us for our project and do the story about Jefferson Coltrane called Deadly Truth. So we'll be giving you more details on that next week, kind of revealing who we're excited about there, the name of that artist, maybe more than one artist. And the goal with a movie like Vengeance Turns is to get it in front of people. David and I, our expertise is not distribution. It's not getting the movie in front of people. David and my expertise, what we're good at is making stories and making them look good and putting them on the screen. Our goal has been to find someone else to help get the movie in front of people. And we've got good news on that coming up in maybe 2 weeks as well. So I'm going to put a big tease out there for you on that because we got some conversations coming up. I saw Moriah look up, and we've got conversations coming up next week, very positive emails back and forth with somebody. And literally, David knows this is a fact because I was speechless the other day. Every single thing I was worried about was addressed in the email. So if we talk to these people and everything stays as good, then we're going to have some very earth-shattering good news to share in about 2 weeks. So you want to be here every week is what I'm saying to the viewers out there. And to the people on the Vengeance Turns team. Even if you're not part of the Cabin Fever Radio novella, you're going to want to tune in. You're going to want to watch because it's where you're going to hear it, guys. I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm not going to send you a text and telling you about it. I'm going to say, oh, yeah.
You're not going to send me a text?
Not you. I'm going to keep it a special secret from you, dude. You're sitting there eating hamburgers or whatever across the table. Hey, did you hear from that guy? I don't know what you're talking about.
Send me a text.
No texts. No texts.
But yeah, no, it is true. We have some amazing news, some amazing progress on it, and we can't wait to share with everyone. But again, thank you as always to all our viewers, to our listeners, to everyone who has been a part of this as well. Because again, it started off as a script that took so long to try to do something with it, turn it into a audio podcast, you know, with Cabin Fever Radio.
Can you hear
and now
me?
it's a film. I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes. So it's definitely one of it's been an amazing journey for sure. And kind of like in the words of Hanzo, it's a journey that you're going through a forest. So there's no one easy path to follow. There's different variations of where we're trying to go, but you know, where we want to end up is having this film be viewed by as many people as possible throughout the entire globe, not just us. So again, stay tuned.
And if that gets us money, all the better.
That that definitely helps for sure. Because these aren't cheap. These little Starbucks things. Please sponsor me, Starbucks, if you can. But again, so we will be rolling back into the film and into the second portion of
just a
Kill Bill Vol.1.
And I'm really excited again, in case you guys can't tell about all the rambling earlier. But I also want to thank everybody here today because we got some new players that is really cool.
Yes.
Like this is it's good to see Alicia back here. It's good to have everybody back, by the way. But
It's good to see everyone. I missed you guys. By the way.
It's in some ways it seems like forever. In other ways it seems like yesterday. That's how screwed up the last couple months have been.
Yeah.
I could feel that. Yeah.
But I want to thank Ray Gonzales for joining us today. This is his first time doing Cabin Fever Radio novellas. So thank you, Ray.
I'm going to start from now on. I'm not going to miss it. A few weeks, but I'm back.
And Cass, I'm really glad to bring Cass into the mix as well. I've reached out to Cass a few times recently, and Cass is also a musician. We did the Cabin Fever Radio Music Hour the other night, and I've been like kind of bugging Cass and saying, let's get you on there, you know. And I was talking to her right after we got done filming because I saw her post something about her own music that she does. I was like, let's make a video. So I'm hoping that as things get less COVID-y and everything, that me and David can meet up with Cass and work on something for her and put together some kind of cool video. Because I've wanted to work on something with choreography and stuff for a while too. So that's something else. But it's nice to have Cass here, get her in the mix. So all of you guys, welcome back. Welcome for your first times. And let people know that we're giving some stuff away because it is fun to be giving away some of this swag and stuff and just to kind of spread the word. David and I've been bugging people for so long about buying this stuff that it's kind of nice to have a couple of weeks where we can bug people about giving it away to them. So if you know people that like Vengeance Turns but have been broke, send them to watch the show.
Yeah. And again, it's very simple. All you have to do is just tag us on something that you post about Cabin Fever Radio. Simple as that. Cabin Fever Radio on Instagram, because that's the easiest way to track who is participating and you know, to all our listeners on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Just go on your Instagram, take a picture of us, screenshot us, or even repost our last post that we did on Instagram. But all you have to do is just go to Instagram, post something, and tag us.
Yep.
Tag us, Cabin Fever Radio.
You got until the end of the show. And
yes.
If we don't give anything away by the end of the show, I guess we'll just roll that merch over to next week. So we'll just end up having more shit to give away. So don't make us do that. Get this shit out of here, man. We need to get some space in our house.
Yeah, a poster is like it's
It's
well,
terrible.
it doesn't take up that much space, but space nonetheless. And it'll be amazing for you to have it in your own walls.
That's what we care about.
And right now I'm showing it to the audience what we're raffling off, which is a poster and a pin. So a poster and a pin. So there will be 2 winners. So again, that is on Instagram, tag us on a post about Cabin Fever Radio, tag at Cabin Fever Radio. Super simple. And we'll get the notifications and we'll keep you posted and we'll determine the winner at the end of the show. So you have time. Was that it?
And
Guys,
yeah,
it's raining. It's
It's raining?
raining in LA. It's like pouring over here.
Oh, really?
It's I'm in Gardena and it's dark here right now, but it's not raining yet.
I'm in Huntington Beach. It's not raining here yet.
It's coming down pretty, I mean, not for what I'm used to, but for all you LA people, it's raining.
That is
Cats
convenient.
and dogs.
So after, if it's raining at the end of this, you might want to get a live stream going outside because I'm gonna go take a shower from God out in the middle of our apartment courtyard and just get naked and
I don't want to shower. This rain
in the rain.
rain in LA is nasty.
Yeah, I
But
have to.
I'll use soap. I will use soap.
I'm more worried about you live streaming it. You can go ahead and do the thing. But you don't have to live stream it.
You will be dirtier after.
No, I'm not doing this alone. I'm live streaming it. I am live streaming it. So yeah, you're gonna watch people.
Don't tell us where to look.
Yeah,
What was that, Cass? Say that again.
I said,
Please
not
don't
give
tell.
us the link.
She said, just please don't
Yeah.
share the link. Like she's like, you live stream that shit, but please do not share the link, man. Bury the link.
Don't need it. Yeah.
It
Ha-
has-
ha-
Accidentally lost you in the meeting.
Oh no. Oh no, the rain. So sorry. It's screwing up my signal. Oh, bummer.
Hello, animal control. You need to get over here.
Oh, the police.
There's a Yeti outside.
Wait.
All right.
Uh,
All right. All
so
right.
yeah, all right. So we're gonna start getting back into the rhythm.
I don't think it's, I live in Hollywood. I don't think it's raining downtown. That's like 5 miles away.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Downtown.
Oh, dude, no, we can't. We're not on that song right now.
Oh.
It got ruined recently.
In the middle of the street.
Yeah. All right. Chapter 4. Chapter 4.
Chapter
Showdown.
4. You want me to intro the? Let me do a quick little intro.
Yeah.
into-
Yeah. Kick us that direction.
Hello and welcome to Cabin Fever Radio. This is part 2 of Kill Bill Volume 1.
Part
was
2 of
What
Kill
happened
Bill.
to the intro, the old intro?
The music? You want to music us in? Some bumper?
Hello and welcome to season 3. Actually, this is season 4, but we have a new bumper. Let me just cut that out, and this is the new bumper for season 4.
Not amused. I liked the old one.
Mariah is not amused.
Holy shit, man.
Everybody's like, wow, she's a bitch. Kidding.
other one.
Well, you know what they say
I
about
gotta-
pleasing a woman.
I gotta
Don't.
change it up a little bit, you know. I'll
Alright.
fix it later.
Just kidding.
You made him feel bad.
David, you're over there killing it, multitasking. You're my favorite. You're my hero.
Here we go.
Now do you feel better?
Yes.
Do you want a high five?
Follow these
Okay,
numbers.
on our level.
Follow these numbers if you can, folks. Kill Bill, Volume 1, Part 2, Chapter 4.
Yeah.
Showdown at the House of Blue Leaves. A blank piece of drawing paper. A hand comes in, and as the bride talks over this image, draws with a piece of charcoal a portrait of a geisha regaled Orin Ishii.
When fortune smiles on something as violent as ugly as revenge, at the time it seems proof like no other that not only does God exist, you're doing his will. At a time when I knew the last thing about my enemies, the first name on my death list was the easiest to find. But of course, when one manages the difficult task of becoming queen of the Tokyo underworld, One doesn't keep it a secret, does one?
The charcoal drawing gets color and becomes animated, turning into a Japanimation O-Ren. Japanese, god damn it. Let's call it anime. Anime sequence. We see anime style images of the bride's verbiage.
At the age of 20, Bill backed his Nippon prodigy financially and philosophically in his Shakespearean in magnitude power struggle with the other Yakuza clans over who would rule vice in the city of Tokyo.
Anime images of O-Ren and her army taking on another Yakuza army among falling cherry blossoms. We cut back and forth between cartoon images of this and the real-life McCoy samurai sword battle. O-Ren's ability is simply amazing.
When it was all over, it was the geisha regaled O-Ren Ishii that proved the victor.
Interior Japanese nightclub. O-Ren has just become the official leader of crime in the city of Tokyo. The 6 Yakuza clan bosses, each with 2 bodyguards standing behind them, toast their new leader with much laughter and drinking, all except one, Boss Tanaka.
And just in case you're wondering, how could a half-breed Japanese Chinese American become the boss of all criminal activity in Tokyo, Japan? I'll tell you. The subject of O-Ren's blood and nationality came up before the council only once. The night O-Ren assumed power over the crime council.
Boss Tanaka is the picture of angered ambiance among the alcohol-fueled frivolity.
The man who seems bound and determined to break the mood is Boss Tanaka. And what Boss Tanaka thinks is...
Boss Tanaka brings his fist down on the table, smashing the plate in front of him into itty-bitty pieces. The party comes to a halt as all eyes go to the leader of the Tanaka crime family.
Tanaka, what's the meaning of this outburst? This is a time for celebration.
Should I be celebrating the perversion of our illustrious council?
The bosses all react with shock and outrage. O-Ren remains cool. She raises her voice for the first word, but lowers it for the rest of the sentence.
Gentlemen, Boss Takanaka obviously has something on his mind. Allow him to express it.
My father, along with yours and along with yours, started this council. And while you drink like fish and laugh like donkeys, they weep in the afterlife over the perversion committed today.
The bosses react again. O-Ren.
Silence! Of what perversion do you speak, Tanaka?
Boss Tanaka looks at the female half-breed American and says,
I speak, Mistress Ishii, of the perversion done to this council, which I love more than my own children, by making a half-Chinese American its leader.
uh-oh. Then, faster than you can say Jiminy Cricket, O-Ren Samurai, O-Ren Samurai sword is unsheathed. Boss Tanaka's head is liberated from its body. The head hits the floor, and from the spot between its shoulder blades, a geyser of blood shoots up into the air. The bosses who were shocked at Tanaka's words are even more flabbergasted at O-Ren's response. The 2 bodyguards standing behind Boss Tanaka, hands go to their swords and draw them. O-Ren turns her blade in their direction. The bosses and their bodyguards say nothing, only watch. The lady looks across at the 2 men and says in an authoritative voice,
Fight me or work for me.
They look at her for a moment, then they lower their swords.
Drop them on the ground.
They do.
Get behind me.
They do.
Get on your knees.
They do.
Put your foreheads on the floor.
And they do.
Keep your mouths shut.
You better motherfucking believe they do. The mistress's eyes go to the other bosses looking at her. As she speaks English, bodyguard translators translate for their bosses.
I'm going to say this in English so you know how serious I am. As your leader, I encourage you from time to time and always in a respectful manner and with the complete knowledge that my decision is final to question my logic. If you're unconvinced a particular plan of action I've decided is the wisest, tell me so. But allow me to convince you, and I will promise you right here and now, no subject will be taboo, except the subject that was just under discussion. Hand me that head.
He picks it off the floor and meekly offers it to his queen. She takes it by the hair and holds it up as she speaks.
The price you pay for bringing up either my Chinese or my American heritage as a negative is I collect my fucking head. Just like this fucking here. Now, if any of you son of a bitches got anything else to say, now's the fucking time.
Nobody says anything.
I didn't think so. Meeting adjourned.
Exterior, the House of Leaves Japanese restaurant. The entire Orange crew moves through the restaurant. The customers all look up now as the crew passes. The restaurant staff acts as if the shogun himself has just showed up on their doorstep demanding a meal. No doubt if the meal is not satisfactory, the staff will gladly slice off a finger. The door to a private dining room is slid open. The crew steps inside. The door is slid shut. Interior private dining area restaurant night. The private dining area of this Japanese restaurant. The patrons are surrounded by white paper walls. The camera circles around Orin Ishii. Sitting in between her two personal bodyguards, the Yubari sisters, Yuki and Gogo. The Yubari sisters are younger than Oren. Yuki is 16 and Gogo is 17. Interesting. Both girls are dressed in Japanese schoolgirl uniforms, complete with plaid skirts and matching blazers. Flash on, close-up of an eyeball, the bride's. On her right is French and Japanese lawyer Sophie Fatal. Flash on, close-up of an eyeball. The bunch of mop-topped young men who all wear black suits, white shirts, thin black ties, and Kato masks over their eyes are her soldiers, the Crazy 88. Flash on, close-up of an ear. The bride's fingers come into frame and move blonde hair out of the sensory appendages way. And finally, there's a tall, dark American in a black suit, sans Kato mask. That means without. That's Oren's head of security, Mr. Barrel. They're all drinking and having a good time as Sophie tells a joke in Japanese.
Mop tops and black suits and Kato masks were Oren's soldiers, the Crazy 88s. The two young girls in the schoolgirl uniforms are his personal bodyguards, the Yubari sisters, Yuki, age 16, and Gogo, age 17. The pretty little lady who dressed like she's a villain on Star Trek is Oren's best friend and her lawyer, Sophie Fatal. And finally, the American in the black suit, sans Kato mask, Oren's head of security, Mr. Barrel.
Suddenly, Oren hears something like a deer in the forest. Her head springs up on alert. It's almost as if she's listening to the bride's narration. The bride's narration suddenly stops in mid-sentence. Oren removes a small dagger dart from the fold of her robe and throws it in the direction of the sound. Close up, the bride dressed in a kimono. On the other side of the private dining room paper wall, the dart flies through the paper, streaks by her face, almost taking off the tip of her nose in the process. Insert, dart embeds itself in a wood post. Oren's action instantly brings the room's frivolity to a halt. Mistress Ishii silently orders Gogo and Yuki to retrieve the eavesdropper. Interior Japanese restaurant night. The white paper door to Oren's dining room slams open. Yuki and Gogo step into the corridor. All trace of the bride has vanished. They look over the restaurant. Patrons look normal. Whoever was there, she's gone now. Gogo removes a small dagger from the wood post, and the Yubari sisters go back into the private dining room, slamming the door behind them. It's a one-shot close-up of the bride at the bar in her kimono, drinking a colorful cocktail. She observes all the activity by Oren's private dining room. When the Yubari sisters go back inside, the bride climbs off her bar stool and goes through the restaurant, into the parking area, and up to her rental car. She opens the door, takes off her Japanese kimono. Underneath is a one-piece yellow tracksuit with a black stripe going down both sides. Both sides, like the one Bruce Lee wears in Game of Death. She tosses the kimono in the trunk, then removes the sheathed Hanzo sword. With the sword of vengeance in her hand, we follow her back inside the restaurant. She looks upstairs to Oren dining room. We see Yuki Yubari and Sophie Fatal slide open the door and walk down the stairs together. When they get to the bottom, they give each other a kiss goodbye, and Yuki leaves the restaurant, while Sophie makes her way to the bathroom, only to have the bride, now dressed in her Bruce Lee yellow outfit and samurai sword in her hand, barring her way. End of that shot. Back and forth between close-ups of these two women face to face. Sophie.
Can I help you?
Yes. I'm looking for the attorney of Oren Ishii, Sophie Fatal. That be you?
I'm Mr. Ishii's attorney. How can I help you?
The bride punches her in the face. Interior Oren's private room. Aside from drinking like fishes, what is the queen of Tokyo underworld, Mistress Oren Ishii, and her private army doing when we cut back? Oh, yeah, they're singing karaoke, of course. It's the Crazy 88 Mickey's turn at the mic, and he's having a whale of a good time singing Dionne Warwick's Walk On By in Japanese when A commotion is heard, being made by the restaurant staff and the other patrons from the other side of the white paper wall. Just as they all start to notice it, they hear,
"Oh, Renishi, you and I have unfinished business."
the crazy 88 spring to their feet. One slides open the door. They see Oren's lawyer, Sophie Fatale, standing in the middle of the restaurant, her left arm completely outstretched, hand gripped around a post. She has a terrified look on her face. Before anybody on Oren's side of the room can say anything, the bride steps out from behind Sophie. Oren's reaction shows how effective the element of surprise turned out to be. She says the bride's name softly to herself. Of course, it's bleeped out. The bride, the vengeance theme, the vein on her forehead begins to pulsate. We do a quick Shaw Brothers zoom into our eyes, a spaghetti western flashback. Oren beating the shit out of her at the wedding chapel is superimposed over her eyes. The flashback dissolves. We zoom back into a close-up. The vein stops pulsating and the theme stops playing over the soundtrack, leaving a clean, colorful close-up of the bride loaded for bear. She raises her Hanzo sword and slices off Sophie's arm right at the shoulder with one single stroke. Sophie, spewing and gushing blood from her stump, twists her body in agony, painting the floor and the walls, literally with giant splashes of blood, like 10 people's amount of blood, as her body hits the floor, twitching in both surprise and shock. The crazy 88 run out into the dining room area and create a human wall between themselves and their mistress. Mr. Beryl and Gogo take positions on either side of Oren. Oren, seated in the shogun seat, rises furiously to her feet.
You bastard.
The bride does a swipe in the air with her sword. Sophie's blood flies off the blade. The entire floor of the dining room lies between the two warring parties. The bride versus the crazy 88. The restaurant staff and patrons sit or stand rigidly in fear. Oren says loudly to the room,
Sorry, everybody, but I'm afraid we're going to have to close the place. There's some private business that we must attend to now.
The staff and the customers stampede the exits. The bride, the crazy 88, and Oren hold their ground without moving a muscle till the dining room, as well as the entire restaurant known as the House of Blue Leaves, is deserted of every human not engaged in the face-off that precedes combat. Oren gives a simple order.
Miki.
Miki, one of the crazy 88, the little one, steps forward, unsheaths his sword, and yells at the yellow-clad blonde.
You had it coming, bastard.
Raising his samurai sword, he charges, screaming a bonsai scream. Just like that, the bride turns to face him. Miki charging and screaming. The bride slowly raises the Hanzo sword into striking position. Miki charging and screaming. Almost on top of her. The bride, sword in position, waits for her opponent to arrive. Miki arrives at his destination. He swings. The bride swings. The Hanzo sword slices Miki's inferior blade in half. Miki looks down at the impotent weapon in his hand. Uh-oh. The bride thrusts her sword through Miki's abdomen, then lifts the little guy off the ground, straight up in the air. Miki, screaming, impaled on her blade like a fish at the end of a spear, held up in the air. Restaurant light fixtures in the background. Oren and her crew watch stunned. The bride drops the shish kebab Miki into the koi pond that starts outside the restaurant and ends inside with a huge splash. Koi pond, blue water, orange, yellow fish, bread, blood, dead man. The bride looks up from the pond across the length of the floor into the eyes of Oren Ishii. She takes one step forward, hears the slightest noise, twirls the samurai sword in the air once, drops to one knee, and thrusts the sword into the beige colored covered floor. The sword sticks in the floor halfway. The sound of human death rises from underneath the floor. Overhead shot, looking down on the bride at one end and Oren and her crew at the other. A red circle appears where the blade is buried in the floor. The red circle grows larger and larger and larger and larger still, leaving the sword stuck in the floor, handle sticking straight up in the air. The bride rises up from one knee and straight and tall, staring down the queen of Tokyo underworld. Oren, her eyes narrow with rage. She screams out another order.
Tear the bitch apart.
The 6 remaining crazy 88 unsheath their swords at the same time with great sound effect. It goes shing. They circle the bride. The bride, inside the circle of combatants who surround her, she whips the sword out of the floor and raises her blade diagonally in front of her. Her eyes are reflected in the shiny steel. Holding her sword in the diagonal position, the bride can see reflected in the shiny blade whoever stands behind her. The 6 crazy 88 attack. The bride does a Zatuichi like swish of her steel blade. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Poor 4 boys die. An immediate samurai blade inflicted death. Screaming grunt, twitching body frozen in the stance. It was slashed and red blood squirting from wounds. Then a crashing collapse to the floor. Kaboom. The last two put up more of a fight, but then one of them is slashed and falls out of the last one is slashed and crashes through the restaurant's big picture window. Close up, the eyes of the bride pointed down at the bodies by her feet, beat by the feet. They look back up at Oren, standing between Gogo and Mr. Barrel, her eyes narrow. The bride sweeps the air with her sword. The blood of the dead attackers just flies everywhere. Gogo and Mr. Barrel unsheath their swords. When we hear a loud sound of many engines behind the bride. Then behind her, through broken picture windows, we see 17 motorcycles pull up to the parking lot. All the riders wear black suits with Kato masks and all carry samurai swords. The bride looks from the reinforcements to Oren. Oren, yeah, she smiles.
You didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you?
You know, for a second there. Yeah, I did.
Oren smiles.
Silly rabbit.
Both Oren and the bride finish the phrase together.
Tricks are for kids.
This is something they used to say back when they fought alongside each other as vipers. The 17 crazy 88 reinforcements come running into the restaurant with swords drawn, surround the bride. As more Huey Lewis music begins to pulsate on the soundtrack. Do you believe in love? The boys and the bride have a spaghetti western standoff. We do a 360 inside the circle of the crazy 88 who surround the yellow-haired warrior. Not all have samurai swords. One juggles 2 hatchets, another twirls a 3-staff triple iron over his head, and the Huey Lewis music builds. We cut to the various shots of the 2 opposing forces preparing to strike. Hands on sword handles, feet finding combat stances. Do you believe in love? At that point, the Huey Lewis explodes over the soundtrack, in time with the bride exploding in a violent killing machine on screen. Do you believe in love? As she matches skill with the army of the black suited boys, arms flailing, silver blade clashing and slashing, long blonde hair whipping like a whirling dervish. She's a goddess, war Venus. But not only is the fight cut to the Huey Lewis music, but the bride seems to be somewhat dancing to it as she fights. Do you believe in love? Do you believe it's true? This explosion of furious violence is punctuated cinematically by the color in the film popping off and the fight being filmed in high contrast black and white, turning the squirting, spewing geysers of blood from crimson red to oily black. Many members of the Crazy 88 are sliced, slashed, and liberated from the limbs they were born with at the bride's blade. Some specific moments, pay attention. While clashing swords, the bride whips the silver boomerang out of its holster. She throws it. It twirls through the air. It embeds itself long ways in one of the boys' faces. Ow, that hurts. The bride does a midair somersault over the head of an attacker, landing solid on the feet behind him. Slash. He's out. The bride is knocked to the floor. Her attacker standing over her to spear the young blonde. Her legs spring up into the air. Ankles lock around the boy's neck. He's fucked. She throws him down to the ground with his neck still in the vice-like grip of her ankles. She removes the SOG knife from its sheath and plunges it deep into the boy's chest. While standing on the ground, an attacker charges at her, yanking the boomerang out of the dead guy's face. She sends it flying into the charging man's path. Yeah, boomerang twirling through the air, close to the ground, chopping off charging attacker's foot in mid-step. Motherfucker falls flat. The bride jumps onto an attacker's shoulders. She locks her legs around him so he's helpless at shaking her off. She swings down her sword and cuts a man's hands off. So while the helpless man with no hands screams, now like 9-foot-tall bride's fights with the others. What? Then when she's through with her blade, the blade across the man's what? When she's through, she brings the blade across the man she's perched on's throat. I got it. He falls on his knees, bringing the bride back to the floor like an elevator. As soon as her soul touch the ground, she's off his shoulders, somersaulting on the floor, bringing her blade up between an attacker's leg. Ow, 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 into his groin. He lets out a scream as she yanks her blade free. One attacker steps out of the rest, the beat one, the best one. He twirls his sword expertly, challenging the young woman to come get a piece. The bride does a screaming charge toward him, sword raised. The attacker stands his ground, calm, steady, waiting for the blonde-haired locomotive to collide. They meet, swing, clash, dance, separate, swing, clash. Huey Lewis, do you believe in love? I do, I do, I do. They match each other blow for blow until one makes a mistake. It's the male, the bride's swing. That's neither clash nor blocks. Slices off his right arm. The arm, still gripping the samurai sword, drops to the floor. The bride pushes the Hanzo sword right through the middle of his chest. Only half of the Crazy 88's that started the fight still remain alive or intact even. They start to approach. The bride, still holding up the sword that's still impaling the skilled attacker, backs up, keeping his body between her and the remaining killers. Like a boxer, the bride uses this momentary break in the action to rest her feet and jam to some Huey Lewis. Then she yanks the blade from his chest cavity. The body twitches, it spasms, grunts, and it crashes to the floor. The attackers start to close in. The bride readies herself for their attack. Then more Huey Lewis. In perfect time with the heavy metal, she drops to the floor on the back, spinning like a top. She swings and slashes and cuts down below their legs, and like some hellish samurai sword-wielding turtle flipped over on its back shell, many black-suited mask-wearing boys drop to the ground. Still spinning like a breakdancer to Huey Lewis, she spins up on top of her head and pumps back up onto her feet. And then there were 7. The 7 remaining sword-wielding black-suited boys move out of range in the bride's blade, and when she drops to the floor, they're now spread out. They make a large half circle. The bride slowly points the tip of her blade to the floor, lowers herself to one knee, and slightly bows her head in repose. Close-up of the bride's eyes, pointed up, watch them move closer. The color comes back into the film. We see her face is splashed with blood. O-Ren whips open a red fan. Go-Go steps by the restaurant. Junction box flips the switch. Huey Lewis believes in love. The room goes dark. The crazy 7 make a wide circle around the blonde who's still on the floor, looking down on her, breathing hard in the shadows. As she breathes in and out, the face of a lioness is superimposed over her own. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. The bride rises to her feet. The crazy 7 move in a circle around the bride. She moves in a circle of their circle. All 8 of them move in rhythm with the Huey Lewis. Huey Lewis builds and builds to a big finish. Do you believe in love? Do you believe it's true? And then the bride explodes, wide shot, framed like a kabuki stage. With the lights off, the white paper wall, the 8 killers fight in front of turns a psychedelic bright blue. The snow falling outside is reflected against the paper wall like black snow falling on a blue shadow puppet stage. The 8 samurais are black silhouettes against the blue backdrop. They begin to combat in a dance of blood, steel, and death. The bride does a sword-wielding do-si-do with all sword-wielding partners. The clish clashes with all of them. They separate, stalk each other with a momentary beat, and then clish clash again, with the bride killing or hacking the limbs of one unlucky dance partner at each encounter. Sometimes during the separation, the bride crouches down in repose while the others continue to circle, stalk. Then she strikes again, like Huey Lewis. We cut in closer whenever we need to. Finally, the last of O-Ren's soldiers falls to the bride's sword. Go-Go, standing by the junction box, flips a switch, turning the lights back on. The electricity shines the light on the bride, splashed all over with blood painting the floor, walls, and ceiling. Dead bodies, several limbs, and horribly wounded men who have yet to die litter the ground. With a big whoosh in the air, the blood of O-Ren's subordinates flies off the blonde Avenger's blade, and then saying to the foes who litter the ground,
Those of you lucky enough to still have your lives, take them with you. Believe the limbs you've lost. They belong to me now.
The wounded men crawl out of the restaurant. The yellow-haired, crimson-covered woman looks to the last remaining combatants, Mr. Barrel, Gogo Yubari, and O-Ren Ishii. Gogo steps forward and removes her weapon. It's not a samurai sword. It's a heavy metal ball at the end of a long chain. She begins twirling it above her head. Each rotation makes a whoosh sound in the air. Ball and chain, it's like a 3D-like effect. The metal ball comes right at us. Whoosh. The bride ducks out of the way, the heavy ball destroying a large chunk of wood posted behind her. Go-Go, her eyes focused on her enemy. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. She lets it fly. The ball and the chains wrap around the blade of the Hanzo sword. Go-Go yanks. The Hanzo sword flies out of her grip. Go-Go smiles, then whoosh, whoosh. The bride removes her boomerang and throws it at Go-Go. The boomerang twirls through the air, heading right for Go-Go. Whack! The young bodyguard swats it out of the air with her ball and chain. She lifts up her chain and boomerang lies bent on the floor. She looks at her opponent. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. She lets it fly. It strikes the bride in the chest, knocking her back. Go-Go twirls it over her head and sends it towards the bride on the floor. The bride rolls out of the way. The Huey Lewis ball punches a hole in the overturned table instead. The weaponless bride wrestles a table leg loose from its purpose. She hops up on a table leg in hand, ready to fight. Go-Go hops up on the table. As they fight, they hop from table to table. Go-Go throws her ball and chain. The bride, quick as a whip, bats it away with the table leg. Go-Go lets loose with the ball and chain. It wraps around the bride's ankle. Go-Go yanks. The bride's leg is yanked out from under her. She falls, crashing through another table. Go-Go jumps on top of the bride, attacking her with a samurai short sword. The bride uses the table leg to block it. The women fight fiercely, locked in grapple, each face ugly with struggle. Gogo lets her left earlobe go too close to the bride's mouth. The bride bites down on it, Mike Tyson style. Gogo screams at the lower part of the appendage is bitten off, and she rolls off of the bride. The bride comes at her, bringing the table leg, whoops upside her head, whoop side her head. The girl in the schoolgirl uniform falls on her back and delivers a powerful CK to the bride. From below, dropping her to her knees. Do you know what a CK is? Oren is up and wraps the chain around the bride's neck and begins to strangle. The chain digs into the bride's throat. The bride digs into the table leg, which has a couple of nasty looking nails in it, hard against the Japanese girl's thigh. The nails cut through the plaid school uniform into her flesh. When the bride rips out the nails, taking some meat with them, yum. Gogo lets out a horrific scream. The bride brings the table leg down on the toe of the young girl's white tennis shoe. The nails stick in. The white shoe becomes stained red. Gogo screams, letting loose of the chain, falling onto the floor. The bride unwraps the chain from around her neck and begins breathing air into her lungs. That's a good place for it. Gogo tries to escape, dragging her fucked up leg with her. The bride rises from the floor and begins twirling Gogo's head above hers. What? Twirling Gogo's weapon above her head. Gogo, fast as she can, climbs up the stairs to go to the second floor. The bride stands at the bottom of the stairs, twirling the ball and chain over her head. Gogo, frantically and in great pain, climbs the stairs. She gets to the top. The bride lets loose with the ball and chain. It hits the female bodyguard and one half of the Yubari sisters smack, dab in the back of the head. Close up of Gogo. We see her face as she's delivered the death blow right behind it. We see behind her eyes and features her life and spirit shatter like a teapot. Like a discarded rag doll, Gogo Yubari tumbles down the staircase, landing in a pile at the bride's feet, dead before the tumble began. The bride throws the ball and chain to the floor. Her eyes go to the last two remaining combatants, Mr. Barrel and Oren Ishii.
Any more subordinates for me to kill, Oren?
Mr. Barrel says.
Oh, last one.
You're Mr. Barrel, right?
And you are Black Mamba?
Our reputations precede us.
Apparently.
Tell me, Mr. Barrel, why don't you wear your Kato mask? Are you an iconoclast?
Mr. Barrel takes out a Kato mask on a stick, like from a 17th century costume ball, and holds it over his eyes.
I don't like that rubber band. It fucks up my hair all over the place.
You shouldn't work for her.
Too late.
It's not too late to quit.
Do you have a choices?
No.
I know exactly how you feel.
Oh, this has nothing to do with you and I, and everything to do with me taking satisfaction from that bitch behind you. And there's absolutely, positively no way I'm going to leave here without taking that satisfaction. So, Mr. Barrel, you have to stand aside. And that means you must quit. Right now.
I can't.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't.
Don't say can't. There are no can'ts. Yes, you can.
Oren Ishii screams at her.
What are you waiting for? Are you on a date? Attack her, you fool.
Oh my God. She just called you a fool. She just called you a fool in front of me. Not only am I your opponent, I am a female fellow countryman. And you're going to risk your life, to say nothing of harming me, for a woman who refers to you as a fool.
Oren is furious and slaps Mr. Barrel on the shoulder.
Attack, damn you.
The bride acts like she's embarrassed to witness what she just saw. Mr. Barrel spins in Oren's direction, shooting her a look she's never seen from him before. He then looks back to the bride. Her eyes are waiting for his. She says, with just the slightest hint of plea in her voice,
I'll owe you one.
He looks at her a beat longer and then says as he resheaths his sword,
The things I do for a pretty face.
Insert the blade sliding back down into the sheath. The handle locks into the place with a click. He looks back over his shoulder at his former mistress and says,
I quit.
O-Ren could fry an egg on her head. Then, with his sheathed sword in his right hand and his left hand in his pants pocket, he walks across the carnage-strewn room and out the front door. As he walks, when he's parallel with the bride, he stops and says,
About the one you owe me.
Yes.
I'm gonna collect someday, you know.
I'll be disappointed if you don't.
He continues walking without a look back. Before he exits the restaurant, he throws a look in Sophie's direction, who's lying, minus her arm, in a pool of her own blood and says,
Tough luck, but the arm of Sophie.
He exits the movie. O-Ren and the bride match eyes. The Japanese gal says,
Very funny. Your instrument is quite impressive.
Domo.
Where was it made?
Okinawa.
Whom in Okinawa made you this steel?
This is Hattori Hanzo steel.
You lie.
The bride just smiles at her rival's response. O-Ren's composure returns.
Swords, however, never get tired. I hope you saved your energy. If you haven't, you might not last 5 minutes. Have you seen the garden in this establishment?
No?
Oh, you really should. It's quite beautiful. Allow me.
O-Ren moves out of position she stood in for the entire battle. She steps on the doormat of a corpse that serves the same purpose of a bottom step and moves over to the white paper wall and slides it open, revealing a white winter wonderland set against a jet black sky. A snow-covered Japanese garden awaits right outside. Snow falls from the sky, slightly artificial, not phony, but operatic, theatrical, you know. O-Ren stands next to the bride in the doorway, looking out into the white night.
As last looks go, you could do worse.
The queen of the Tokyo underworld steps outside and the bride follows her. Interior, snow-covered Japanese garden night. As snow falls around them, they stand the correct distance from one another. Combat music begins playing, but not Japanese drums, Spanish flamenco guitar. The bride unsheaths her sword quickly, holding it out in front of her. Tip of the blade pointed at O-Ren, sword's handle and her fingers wrapped around that handle, up by her cheek. Her eyes are reflected on the blade. Snow falls around her. O-Ren begins walking forward towards the bride. She raises up her sword, still in its sheath, in front of her face vertically, and then begins slowly unsheathing it. Snow falls around her. O-Ren's feet, gosh, with the feet, white socks and wooden clogs, walk forward, crunching snow underneath them. The bride, holding sword, eyes reflected in blade, her yellow sneakers crunching snow underneath them. O-Ren, when her sword is fully unsheathed, the Japanese combat artist holds both arms straight out at her sides, sword in one hand, wood sheath in the other, like a bird. The two women circle each other. They swing, clash, dance, separate, circle, swing, clash, dance, separate. Change your partners, do-si-do. O-Ren leaps in the air, does a somersault over the bride's head, landing behind her opponent. She brings her sword down in a slashing swing, slashing the bride across her back, spinning her around. O-Ren goes in for the kill. The bride meets her blade. The blades clash and lock. The two women's faces come together as the blades become entangled. O-Ren moves her arm in a counterclockwise motion that loosens the grip enough to bring her sword handle hard into the bride's mouth, knocking her backwards over a small stone bench, flat on her ass in a koi pond. The combat guitar stops. O-Ren doesn't charge the fallen blonde. She just laughs.
Clearly, Caucasian girl likes to play with samurai swords. Bill might have humored you, but you will find neither humor nor mercy at my blade. Now, unless you intend to commit seppuku among the koi, stand up and fight. You may not be able to fight like a samurai, but you can at least die like a samurai.
The combat guitar, it kicks back in. As the bride slowly rises out of the koi pond, she brings up her sword and says calmly to O-Ren in Japanese, "Bride."
You're muted.
Attack me with everything you have.
The two women clash swords furiously. Their attack ends with the bride striking O-Ren, not fatally, but deep. They separate. breathing hard, cold air coming out of their mouths like two locomotives. O-Ren looks down to her wound, then back up to the bride. The respect for the bride's ability is transparent. The two women circle. They stalk each other again. Red blood running down yellow legs onto yellow sneakers. Wooden clogs, crunching snow, blood trail dripping down legs, staining white socks with red. They attack the geisha figurine and the tall Western girl with the mane of whipping blonde hair. They swing, twist, turn, get down, dance all night, matching blow for blow till they both back off. Both women are out of breath and have to stop to recuperate as they both drink the harsh cold air into their lungs, leaving red bloodstains in the white snow. The two females have the same thought. The next clash will be their last.
I apologize for ridiculing you earlier.
Accepted.
They continue breathing.
Ready?
Yes.
The flamenco guitar begins again as the two women circle each other for their final attack. With all the quickness and skill at their command, they clash in a superb display of samurai swordplay until they find themselves opposite sides of a garden wall. The bride and O-Ren both begin running diagonally through the snow, swords held up high, facing each other, continuing to run even after they pass the wall, screaming their samurai hearts out until they both swing. Can't tell who got who. A scalp of long black hair flies through the air, landing in the white snow. O-Ren Ishii, close up, facing away from the bride, sword still in her hand. We see she doesn't have the top of her head. A touch of her brain is exposed. Blood droplets streak her face like raindrops. The queen of the Tokyo underworld, whose regime has just ended with one swing, stares off into space.
That really was a Hattori Hanzo sword.
Her sword falls from her grip into the snow by her feet.
I always dreamed of owning one.
O-Ren falls to her knees, toppling forward, left cheek in the snow, just barely alive. She says,
Did he make it for you?
Yes.
the last thing she says before she dies.
He must have liked you.
With her cheek resting against the snow, her eyes close, and she's gone. The bride removes a white handkerchief, the one we saw her sewing earlier with Bill in the corner, and she uses it to wipe the blood, once belonging to the first name on her death list, off her Hanzo steel. Close-up of the Hanzo sword. It's returned back to its sheath. The lion's head that Hanzo carved into the wood seems pleased. We cut to the bride, now wearing a yellow, faceless motorcycle crash helmet on her head, stands framed in a trunk shot. Sophie Fatale, minus an arm, lies curled up in the trunk of her Mazda. Really? The bride slams the trunk. Screen goes black. The Mazda driving down the road at supersonic speed. The bride behind the wheel, wearing her crash helmet. It looks like an insert from Grand Prix. Point of view through the windshield. Car speeding, then stopping. Black screen. The bride lifts up trunk lid. We look up at her framed in the trunk shot. Helmet on head, making her faceless. Gold, deadly viper syringe in her hand. When she speaks, it comes out of a voice box at the bottom of the helmet, turning her voice deeper and electronically spooky. The two women speak Japanese to each other.
I've kept you alive for one reason. Information. Being O-Ren's lawyer, I take it you're familiar with Bill?
Yes.
In fact, I'd guesstimate you worked for Bill before O-Ren. And that's how it is you came to work for O-Ren. Am I correct?
Yes.
I thought so. Give me the arm you have left.
Why?
I want information. Now give me your arm.
Sophie offers up her remaining arm. She injects Sophie with the golden syringe.
The cocktail racing through your bloodstream at this moment is Bill's own recipe. He calls it the undisputed truth.
She's injected.
Okay, first things first. Where was the other Yubari sister, Yuki?
Yuki's sick. She went home early.
Do tell. What's wrong with her?
She has a cold.
Oh, poor baby. What do you think she'll do when she finds out what happened?
She'll wail with grief.
We cut to Yuki Yabari upon hearing the news of her sister's death, and she's just screaming. And now we cut back to Sophie.
She'll drink excessively.
Let's take a look back at Yuki. She's got a big bottle of sake in her mouth, points it bottom up. Now we cut back to Sophie.
She'll start trouble.
Let's peek in at Yuki again. She's sitting at a bar in a drunken stupor. An older Japanese man in a business suit sits next to her at the bar. He, puts the make on her.
Do you like Ferraris?
Yuki stares out into space. She says with a drunken voice,
Ferrari. Italian trash.
She slowly turns to face the older Japanese man in the business suit.
Do you find me hot?
The man in the business suit giggles at her boldness. She gets annoyed.
Don't laugh. Do you want to fuck me? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, Alfred.
Oh,
Then he lets out a grunt coming from below. We see she has stabbed him in the belly with a samurai short sword and is slowly dragging the blade across his abdomen, creating a big red grin across his midsection. It's a two-shot now. Yuki and Mr. Business Suit Guy. Yuki is focused. Mr. Business Suit Guy is penetrated. She opens him up more. He feels every inch of the blade's progress.
How about now, big boy? Do you still wish to penetrate me?
Cuts deeper.
Or is it I who has penetrated you?
Irony. And with her last line does the final disemboweling slice that sends his insides spilling out into the barroom floor. Cut back to Sophie.
When she stops shedding tears, she'll start shedding blood.
Best guess. What will she do?
I don't have to guess. She'll come after you.
Will she ever give up?
She won't have to. When she finds you, I don't know who will win, but what I do know is she will find you.
She more skilled than I.
Skilled won't be the word.
Don't be coy with me, bitch. What would be the word?
Crazy.
The bride takes this in. Yeah, moves on.
Okay. Now I want all the information on the deadly vipers. What they've been doing and where I can find them.
Exterior, Tokyo General Hospital night. The big hospital of Tokyo is located by a hill by the highway. Sophie's Mazda pulls off the highway but to the side. The bride hops out of the car, runs to the back, opens the trunk, takes out Sophie's body, rolls it down the hill. Sophie stops rolling in front of the entrance of the huge hospital. We cut to a close-up of Sophie in a hospital environment. Bill's voice speaks to her off screen.
Sophie, my Sophie, I'm so sorry.
Please forgive me, my betrayal.
He shushes her.
No more of that. I invented that truth serum. Once it entered your bloodstream, you no longer had a choice.
But still,
nothing except my aching heart over what she's done to my beautiful and brilliant Sophie. If you had to guess why she left you alive, what would be your guess?
guessing won't be necessary. She informed me.
Back to the bride at the trunk.
I'm allowing you to keep your wicked life for one reason and one reason only. So you can tell him in person everything that happened here tonight. I want him to witness the extent of my mercy. By witnessing your deformed body, I want you to tell him all the information you just told me. I want him to know what I know.
Then, with like Superman.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, she's not.
Rude. You took me out of the moment, Bobby. Goddamn.
Did you start over?
I'll just start over. I'm allowing you to keep your wicked life for one reason and one reason only. So you can tell him in person everything that happened here tonight. I want him to witness the extent of my mercy by witnessing your deformed body. I want you to tell him all the information you just told me. I want him to know what I know. I want him to know. I want him to know.
Sorry about that. I'm like somewhat dyslexic. Then with Superman X-ray vision, we see through the helmet to the bride's face inside as she says the last line.
And I want them all to know they'll all soon be as dead as O-Ren.
We cut to a close-up of Sophie. We pan to a close-up of Yuki. Bill says off screen,
If Ren was number 1, unless she's been tricky, Vernita Green will be number 2.
Where is Vernita Green?
Los Angeles. Vernita's in Pasadena, but the woman you want will hold up in a low-budget motel, 15 of 20 minutes away from stepping on board a plane departing LAX. If I had to bet, I'd say Hawthorne.
Yuki blows a pink bubblegum bubble. It pops and she says in English,
California, here I come.
we cut to Hattori Hanzo. He's sewing something that requires a lot of concentration. We cut to the bride's bare back. What he's sewing is the nasty slash O-Ren gave the bride on her back, closed with a simple needle and thread. Close up of the bride, lying naked on her stomach, head up, chin resting on her folded hand, feeling no pain at the needle piercing her flesh. The sleeping giant is awake, and in her eyes we see she's filled with terrible resolve. As Hanzo sews, he recites in Japanese the Yagu mantra. The bride recites in Japanese after him. We close up, cut to O-Ren Ishii's name written in the bride's notebook with the number 1 next to it. A black felt tip pen comes into frame and draws a line through the name. We fade to black. Come back for chapter 5, Yuki's Revenge. We hear Huey Lewis. Montage of Yuki coming to Los Angeles. We cut to more Huey Lewis. We see Yuki dressed in her Japanese private schoolgirl outfit with white blouse, plaid skirt, bobby socks, blazer, and barrettes in her hair. Flying on a jet en route to Los Angeles, she paints her fingernails with bubblegum-colored nail polish. Yuki walks through LAX. Yuki standing next to a car salesman on a California car lot. She points at a car in front of her. We see her cool convertible sports car and her finger pointing at it. We see Yuki behind the wheel of the sports car, driving as fast as she can through the twists and turns of the Hollywood Hills, laughing all the way, Huey Lewis jamming to the speakers full blast. We see Yuki running around all over LA, Hollywood, and Disneyland, taking pictures with her disposable Barbie camera. We have a split screen. On one side, we see Yuki. She's with the big Hollywood sign. She's pointing at it. And Yuki in front of the Chinese theater. Yuki at Grauman's. On the other side, we have the bride on an airplane flying back to Los Angeles, landing in LA. The bride walking off the plane with the other passengers. We see Yuki posing with a celebrity. We see the bride walking through LAX. We see Yuki behind the velvet ropes of a Hollywood premiere. We see her screaming on a roller coaster. We see her at Disneyland. We see her walking and stalking, eating huge ice cream waffle cones while she jams to Huey Lewis. We see the bride walking through LAX. We see Yuki tailing the bride through LAX. We see the bride being followed by Yuki. She's just unaware. Yuki driving her sports car, stalking, Huey Lewis blaring, the bride renting a motel. We see Yuki's car drive by. We hear the Huey Lewis. Medium close-up of Yuki wearing a white uniform and taking money, her eyes watching something off screen. On the other side, Yuki's POV, the bride entering her yellow pickup truck, pussy wagon, parked in front of Vernita's house. On the other side, back to this side, we see Yuki dressed like an ice cream man, selling ice cream. Remember at the beginning, the ice cream, ding, 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 ding. Now, the other side, Vernita Green's name in the bride's notebook. She draws a black line through the name. 2 down and 3 to go, the bride says to herself. On the other side, Yuki's face as she's watching the bride drive away. Back over to the bride driving away from one scene of her latest victory to the other. Back over on this side, Yuki's smiling. Now it's her time. Back Yuki's POV looking at the bride, the yellow pussy wagon drives away. Yuki at night sitting in front of the surveillance seat of her sports car. Her hands are busy below frame. Who knows what she's doing? Yuki's POV, the exterior of the motel. The bride is staying in the motel. It's located in Hawthorne, right down the road. Beautiful Hawthorne. Residential street. Her yellow pickup truck is parked on the street. Pussy wagon. Split screen continues. Yuki's loading an Israel compact submachine gun that lays on her plaid skirt. The bride on the other side, the phone, booking her flight out to LA to Texas as she packs crap inside her motel room. The bride carrying her stuff, the Hanzo sword, money, backpack, all that stuff in a canvas duffel bag. Back over to Yuki on the other side. She's watching, weapon locked, loaded, ready. She makes a beeline of baby blue powder on the dashboard and snorts it up her nose. While the bride is carrying the stuff indoors to outdoors to her pussy wagon. And then on this side, Yuki with the drug of Bill's own concoction called the blues. The drug affects her. Now's the time. Yuki gets out of the car, heads for the oblivious bride. close up of Yuki walking towards the bride. Yuki's POV. We see the bride from a distance. We see her getting close to the bride. Camera as Yuki gets right up to the bride, holding the submachine gun. Full screen. We stay with Yuki's side as she stops in the street across from the bride. During their face-off, we only see the bride at a distance. Hopefully you kept up with all that. The bride is in the background, back to us, packing her trunk, just about ready to make a clean getaway when we hear Yuki yelling to the figure across the street.
Konnichiwa.
We see the back-turned figure of the bride slightly freeze upon hearing the Japanese greeting. Without turning around, she says,
Konnichiwa. Yuki?
Bingo.
We hear Huey Lewis beginning on the soundtrack. The bride turns around to face the young Avenger.
Can I help you?
You can kill yourself.
Yuki giggles.
Taking a trip?
I was.
You still are. One way.
I know you feel you must avenge your sister, but I beg you, walk away.
Yuki giggles.
You call that begging? You can beg better than that.
She giggles again and she takes out a flashlight, switches on the beam.
Can I see your face? I've heard your beauty is exquisite. I would like to see for myself.
Sure.
Yuki shines the flashlight beam in the bride's face.
Oh, look how pretty your face is. Oh, I want to touch it.
Domo.
Your face is so pretty. I just want to put both of my palms against your cheeks and give you a little tiny kisses.
Yuki then shines the flashlight up into her own face.
How do I look?
Very pretty.
You're just saying that because I told you how pretty you are.
Yuki, you're gorgeous.
Really? Is that how you describe me to somebody if I wasn't here? Yuki's gorgeous?
You bet.
She giggles.
Don't make me kill you.
Okay.
Yuki removes the Israeli submachine gun from behind her back and fires a loud, intense volume of firepower at the bride. The bride dives out of her way, just as her yellow pussy wagon is demolished by the ammo. The bride, with her samurai sword in hand and her backpack full of money, takes off running across a couple of front lawns. Yuki chases her with machine gun fire. Then the bride leaps over a long hedge, disappearing behind it. Yuki runs after her, firing all the way, destroying the hedge. The bride darts across the street. She hits the ground and rolls under a Volkswagen van. Bullet fire explodes all around the bride as she rolls out onto the other side. She removes her 9mm automatic and returns fire from behind the van. Yuki yells to her in English.
You think you're safe? I say, ha!
She takes out a hand grenade, removes the pen with her teeth, and slides it towards the bride. The bride sees the live hand grenade skidding and sliding on the asphalt towards her. She takes off running as the Volkswagen van explodes behind her. She cuts through the backyard of a house, the camera taking off with her over the fence in the backyard, over the fence into another yard. She trips, falling into the other house's swimming pool. Instead of splashing around, the bride swims like she was in the Olympics until she's in the shallow end. Without breaking her stride, she runs out of the pool. Now with her gun out, the sopping wet bride gets to the front of the house. It's located on a cul-de-sac. When Yuki's sports car pulls up at the end of the street, both women see each other. Yuki hits the gas, firing her machine gun out the window of her car as she speeds down the dead-end street. Just another normal day in LA. The bride runs across the lawns and hides behind parked cars on the street as the bullets rip up homes, lawns, and automobiles. When Yuki's car reaches the end of the dead end, she jerks the wheel, spinning the car around, pointing it in the opposite direction. She hits the gas again. She pulls the machine gun trigger again. As I said, another normal day in LA. Bullets tear up the cars lining the street. In the hail of bullets, the bride tries to fire back. Yuki reaches the end of the street and spins the car around. She gets ready to make a third pass. Some people in the house behind the bride look out their front door. The bride yells at them.
Stay in your house and stay down on the floor.
Yuki speeds after her, but this time she pops the curb and drives across the front lawns on the street heading right for her. The bride runs into the house she's in front of. She runs through the living room to the kitchen and back door, but the kitchen's where the family that lives there is hiding, and they block the door. Yuki's sports car pulls up in front of the house. She stands up in the convertible, takes out a grenade, pulls the pin, and says,
Time for the rabbit to come out of her hole.
She lobs the grenade up on the porch, then throws herself face down on the lawn. The porch and the front of the house explode into splinters. Everybody in the house is blown back. Realizing there's no getting out of the back door, the bride runs back into the living room that's now missing a wall and runs up the home staircase leading to the bedrooms. Yuki steps into the house, submachine gun in hand. The bride makes it to the top of the stairs and is just about to disappear up the upstairs hallway wall when Yuki fires up at her, hitting her twice in the leg. The upstairs hallway, 2 bedroom doorways line both sides of the hallway. The bride crashes to the floor, screaming. Blood pours out of her. Gunshots. Let's try this again. Screaming. Blood pours out of her. Gunshots. Yuki charges up the stairs, machine guns blazing, tearing up the house. The bride aims her 9mm where she expects Yuki to emerge. Yuki gets to the top of the stairs and steps into the hallway. The bride fires. The bride's bullet wings Yuki in the left breast, knocking her through a bedroom doorway.
Gotcha.
Yuki screams like a little girl at the pain because she's a little girl and she's been shot. She yells from the doorway into the hallway.
You fucking bitch. You shot me in my breast. They're not fully developed yet, you fucking asshole. Now I'm always going to have a dimple.
The bride answers Yuki back with an imitation of Yuki's giggle, which makes the young'un blow her top.
Piss me off.
She fires her machine gun around the corner, tearing up everything around the bride. When the young girl stops firing, the bride yells,
Yuki, in about 2 minutes, there's going to be an army of police here. So if you're going to kill me, now's the time.
From her hiding place, Yuki snorts a line of baby blue powder. It gives her energy.
So what's it going to be, bitch?
Slapping a new clip in her machine gun.
That fucking does it.
Yuki comes around the corner, firing her machine gun in the bride's direction, ripping up everything around her. The bride, lying flat on the floor, fires her 9mm. The explosion of ammo creates hysteria of warfare combat. Yuki charges the bride kamikaze style. 3 more bullets rip into the bride. The bride fires up at Yuki, hitting her 3 times in the body, knocking her off her feet and sending her tumbling down the stairs. The bride, shot up, pulls herself to the top of the stairs. She sees Yuki lying at the bottom, dead. Yuki's face, dead, eyes closed. Then they pop open. Guess what? She's not dead. Though she's bloody and her school uniform is filled with bullet holes, she rises. Her head turns in the direction of the bride. The bride sees this shit and cannot believe this shit. They lock eyes. Yuki, who no longer has the machine gun, takes out a deadly-looking knife and snaps it open with a smile that builds to a scream. She charges up the steps at the bride. The startled bride fires at her. The 9mm, however, is empty. Yuki charging up the steps, yelling, knife raised high. The bride hurriedly removes the pistol she keeps in her ankle holster. Yuki charging. The bride cocks back the hammer. Yuki charging, getting closer. The bride fires. Bullets hit Yuki. Stops her for a quarter of a second, but she keeps charging. The bride fires again. Yuki jerks, but keeps on charging. The bride fires. Yuki jerks, but keeps on charging. The bride fires. Yuki jerks, keeps charging. Almost at her, knife raised high. The bride fires. Yuki jerks, but keeps charging. Knife ready to do its duty. The bride fires, but her gun jams. Yuki leaps on her with the knife. They struggle for a moment until the bride realizes Yuki's dead. She tosses her to the side.
God damn, what a wildcat.
Interior Nurse Owen's home, night. The phone rings, and a black woman in a nurse's uniform with a name tag on it that reads B. Owens answers the phone. Hello, Nurse Owens. Phone's ringing. Nurse.
Hello?
Did we hear it?
Hello?
Ah, there it was. Close up on the bride, her cell phone, a business card in her hand with a number written on the back that says, oh, we just did all that. Did we? So somewhere on the wood plank, the moon shines up into the structure.
Hello. I'm calling Nurse Owens.
Who's this?
You don't know me, but
And I don't want to know either. Now, I don't know how you got my number, but you can just rip that shit up because...
I've been shot 5 times.
Stop. I don't want to hear no more. I got my own problems.
I'm
I got problems
dying.
of my own. Ooh.
Dying.
Then, bitch, you better call yourself an ambulance because I don't do this shit no more.
I can't call an ambulance.
No, you can call an ambulance and you just don't want to. But if your ass is really dying, You ain't got no motherfucking choice.
I do have a choice. Choosing to call you. You refuse to help me, I'll die. That will be your choice.
Bitch, I don't know you.
What do you need to know? From Earth, I'm a woman, I'm dying, and only you can help me.
Okay. Where you at?
I'm in Hawthorne, hiding in a kid's treehouse. It's a street called Dimmick, 1736 Dimmick Avenue. It's a bunch of police cars and fire trucks about 2 blocks away.
What you do? Crawl 2 blocks?
If you can't walk, you better crawl.
Nurse Owens liked that last line.
You got you some money, don't you? Or am I going to be doing this out of the goodness of my heart?
You come and get me. Today's payday.
You ain't too far away. You're going to bleed to death. I get there in a half an hour?
Probably.
Okay, I'll be there in 15 minutes.
That Pacific Standard Time or CPT.
Just you better be there when I get there, and you better be shot 5 times, and your bony ass better be on the last motherfucking legs.
How do you know I have a bony ass?
You sound like you have a bony ass, and you a Trump supporter.
The nurse hangs up the phone. Interior of the treehouse. It's not. She does sound like a Trump supporter. The bride sits in her own blood, waiting for the nurse. For Nurse Owens. Nurse Owens' head pops up from the door in the floor.
Glad you made it.
There's cops all over here. I had to be cool. They tend to notice things like Negroes sneaking up in here in people's neighborhoods and backyards, you know?
The nurse hands the bride a big bottle of wild turkey.
What's that?
This shit's gonna hurt. Ain't got no anesthetic. So get busy.
Interior of Nurse Owens' kitchen, night. Overhead shot. The bride laid out on Nurse Owens' kitchen table while the nurse extracts the bullets. The bride screams. The TV is turned up loud to hide the screams. They're watching like Night of the Living Dead or something. The 5th slug is placed in an ashtray next to 3 cigarette butts and other balls of lead. The bride, drunk as a skunk, says to her savior,
That fucking smart.
smoking her menthol cools, the Nurse Owens says,
Yeah, bullets are bad news. In the future, you should avoid them if you can.
I'll keep that in mind. So, do I have a future?
You live to kill again.
Splendid.
she passes out, and that's it.
That's a fade. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
There's a couple of things that are different in that one, man. That whole ending thing with Nurse Owens, she's nowhere in the movie.
Yeah, when I was reading the script, I was like telling Bobby, it's like there's a lot of things that moved around. Like for example, Yuki in the
Go-Go.
film is all one person.
Yeah, Go-Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just go-go.
Yeah, and they turned it into 2, and then with Nurse Owens for the end. So it's pretty cool.
So
What are these different versions of the script then, do you think?
Yeah, and I wonder what you guys know about this, because here's my thought, and I wonder what you guys think. Is so when Tarantino first wrote this, he wrote it as being one movie. It was just Kill Bill. And then when the studio got it, it was very big. It was like Pulp Fiction, very unwieldy. And so and he didn't fight him. They asked him, they said, could you make this into 2? And he was like, yeah, I'll make it into 2. And so my impression is that this is like the first draft after he had taken the original whole thing and kind of broken it in 2 pieces. And then after that, I think from this is when he started reworking it. You know what I mean? To start moving pieces around and seeing what characters could get eliminated and shit. That's just my impression as a writer, knowing the little bit of history that I know about it. And I don't know.
Yeah, because it is one of those things where it's like if you write something when you're filming it in the editing room, once you're in the post-production aspect of it, in the editing room, you end up switching things around because visually it might feel differently or flow differently than how you have it written. So
yeah, I mean, we just made Vengeance Turns, right? So during the filming of Vengeance Turns, we made some changes on the spot while we were filming.
Yeah.
And then after that, while David and I were editing, there were other changes that we made in the editing, either changing the order that people were saying things sometimes, or sometimes just cutting out pieces of dialogue because it just wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's really interesting to see how things go from the first draft to,
the second or the third or even just the final product.
What ends up on the screen.
Yeah, for sure. And again, thank you everyone here. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mariah. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Shashisha. Thank you, Cass. Thank you, Steven, Ciceron. And thank you guys for watching Cabin Fever Radio. And
keep watching us.
And yes, that's pretty much, keep watching us. We're going to do this on a weekly basis. These next 4 episodes, including this one, are going to be, again, films that inspired Vengeance Turns. And we're going to be doing them on this longer format to see what you guys think. And we'll be looking at all the analytics afterwards and all that fun stuff. But again, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to follow, subscribe, like, comment, chat, do all the things that you do. Press all those buttons. The description has all the links. And to our winners, we have a couple people who did post. And one of the things that I did notice, again, being the first time we're doing a raffle, it is one of those things where we didn't get as many people raffling. But we did get one winner, which is Jack Norris. Jack Norris, thank you for sharing and posting. And the other raffle ticket, it's still available, which will be added to the bundle for next week. So again, stay tuned, stay safe, and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. As I said, I think I repeated that like 5-6 times. I'm looking at my script, making sure I don't miss anything. Thank you, everyone. Blah, blah, blah. I already said that part. Upcoming shows on CabinFeverRadio.com. And if you wish to support the show and get exclusive content like the post show that we do after every single show, it is only available on our Patreon page. So go to patreon.com/CabinFeverRadio. And with just a couple of bucks a month, you can not only support us, but get exclusive content that only you will be able to see. And to finish off the stream, we're going to do something amazing and something spectacular, as always. We're going to showcase the trailer for Vengeance Turns.
So here is the new trailer, guys. Like we said, it got completely remastered. We put the aspect ratios on it. Jamal Gardner, who plays Jefferson Coltrane, came over and spent a day with me and David to re-record the I'm a Rollin' that's going to be used in the movie. And so this is something, if you've seen the old trailer, you've seen basically, but this is going to be much, much closer to what you'd actually see in the movie.
So here is the trailer for Vengeance Turns.
Premiering.
Let's see. If you guys are ready, I am clicking the button.
I'm rolling through this unfriendly world. I'm rolling through this unfriendly world. I'm a rolling. I'm rolling through this unfriendly world. I'm rolling through this unfriendly world.
Everyone else to start calling you Rebecca like it says in that locket?
Rebecca died here. With her family.
Mia! Mia! You will stop this now!
Mia! Delicate! The sheriff!
Yeah.
Who the hell are you?
humor me now? Oh my god! What are we gonna do?
I'm real.
What are we gonna do?
real sorry.
We told you the price if you fuck any of this up.
You don't have to kill me or anything.
I'm sorry, bastard. But don't you ever even think about apologizing! I ain't taking no apology! Ah! Ah! And I'll be sure you're sorry, bet your ass.
So what now?
We're gonna turn those cowards into corpses.
Thought you'd have been more impressed is all.
Cool. Well, that's our big share. That's our big exclusive
Nice.
news for today. And like I said, if you come back next week, very, very literally, man, even the people in the movie, like right now, I don't think like our stars, I don't think that Paula and Azim are watching. And like, if they don't watch next week, they're really going to miss out on big news of what the movie that they're starring in, because we're going to be premiering that news here. So no matter if you're a part of the movie, if you're a fan, no matter who you are, this is where you're going to get to find out the biggest news about Vengeance Turns over the next couple of weeks. And like I said, there's an announcement coming in probably 2 weeks or so that you will be very angry at yourself if you miss that one. So this is the place.
I don't want to miss it.
Yes. And again,
Thank
so
you guys.
on that note, thank you guys for watching.
Thanks
And
for
as
playing.
always, this has been. Wait, let me get my cue ready. I'll use the old one, Moriah.
But you got to dance.
Thank you for watching Cabin Fever Radio.
That was such a